So, Kevin, we got a listener. Have I told you this? There's somebody who's been listening to us.
Get the fuck out of town.
I mean, outside of like your dad and your sister, my wife Sophia. I gotta remember. Have I said anything that's incriminating yet in a relationship on here?
Uh,
So, I was trying as she was
oh,
telling
like
me
the
she was
relationship?
listening. Yeah.
You said some stuff about some prior knowledge about last Saturday.
Mm.
But no, nothing about this.
Yeah. Well, she's been listening. Hi, Sophia. How are you?
Hi, Sophia.
How's everything? I know I've been annoying you today. I've got a lot of energy. Just so any other listeners that are listening, I'm kind of fucked up. I don't know what's up with me today. Just throwing that
And
out
I,
there.
of course, will be matching your energy because I'm also really feeling energetic today.
Energetic is all hell. My ADHD is through the roof. So if I miss something you say and I just go one way, I'm sorry. Let's just get kicking on the show. Kevin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I went to the store earlier and I went to the
Nice.
marijuana dispensary
Nice.
for my wife. I do not smoke pot. I do not like it.
For my wife that is listening, I do not smoke pot and I do not like it either. Anyway, let's continue. She knows I'm fucking with her. So last week we finished up talking about the 2023.
I got a hair on my tongue.
I got this
What
little
was
alfalfa almost over here. Do you see this? It's not. It refuses to like join the rest of the hairs.
I think objectively, in terms of what an alfalfa is, I have more of an alfalfa right now than you do.
Yeah.
The
No, that's
alfalfa
fair.
goes at the top of the head.
At the top of the head. No, I agree. My hair's kind of everywhere right
You know
now.
nothing about Little Rascals?
I know. I couldn't think of another fucking term.
Ain't your grandma take you to see the new Little Rascals movie in theaters when you were 4?
My grandma was dead.
Okay, well,
Your face. I didn't know my grandparents
mine
did.
wasn't. So
No, I didn't know my grandparents. I'm sorry, I just didn't. They were all dead.
they're probably
Anyway,
deceased.
back to some fun stuff. We need to continue on to this past off season. Something we haven't talked about, have we? I mean, you and I have talked about individually, but we haven't on this podcast at all discussed this past off season and all the moves that have been made at all. I think we've talked about Caleb, and that's about it.
Yeah, so for some god awful reason, we went on for 3 hours last week, and
Let's not do that again, please. For the love of God,
hey, you never
for the
know.
love,
I have a
for the love of
co-host.
everything holy.
I have a third co-host here that I'm gonna have to introduce at some point.
Oh, what? Gross. Who?
Let me pull him up. He's under the desk. Say hello.
Did you get a dog?
Mr. Hamster. Mr. Hamster. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Adam. I thought I was in a weird mood.
Mr. Hamster.
What the hell did you get that for? What's with Mr. Hamster? Do I need to go? Should I go? The what? It talks. Oh, it talks. ADHD auditory issues. Yeah, give me a second.
Hang on. I want to see if you are you picking this up?
Yeah, I know. It says what you say. I heard it.
No, it says his own stuff. See, he said, "Yeah, I say my own stuff."
That's it.
All right. The Chicago. What's
Do I need to edit this shit out? I'm gonna need to edit this shit out.
Why? That's great content. He's a talking hamster.
This is some stupid fucking content. It is a talking hamster. It's a cool little talking hamster.
I have a work call every day on Thursday, and Sarah will always put Mr. Hamster down at my desk, like just out of view of the camera. So I was like, you know what? Today he could be on camera. He's always wanted to be on camera.
Oh, put him on camera. Get him a little fucking stool. What the hell's wrong with you? Why haven't you got him a stool yet? So Jason OTC, Jason Fitzgerald from Over the Cap, has obviously his podcast, and rest in peace his bunny, which used to be on the show every single day. No longer. There we go. Yeah, let it sit on your drink. That works out well. We're 5 minutes in, we haven't done shit. Can we?
We have to talk about the Cole Kmet contract. That's boring. I don't want to talk about that. Go ahead. Talk about Cole Kmet's contract.
It is a boring contract. You know why it's a boring contract? Huh?
Because it's the exact contract he should have gotten, and we're fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, some people might say it's an overpay. If it is, it's barely an overpay. I had a rant on Twitter about it a couple days ago because that one stupid fantasy handle was just like, "Hey, yeah, anybody, you need a good laugh? Look at how much Cole Kmet got paid. He's getting paid middle of the market. He's an average tight end. He's perfectly fine for what he's getting paid." Any notes?
No, you could argue. I think you probably argued in the same Twitter thing you're referring to that tight ends typically are not. They're maybe often better on their second contract than on their first. If you
They're
took
the
them
one.
off upside, then if
They're
you
the
think
one
he has
position
upside,
that
then
usually
extend him.
performs. Yeah, they're the
It's
one
like and
position that.
and so David Njoku was an example you pointed out, and I think clearly Komet's not as athletic or really as
Yeah,
talented in any aspect other than blocking,
I think
but
I said that
it's the
all on
same
there.
principle. Yeah, we Njoku looked overpaid, and now Njoku's good, so and it's fine. And so the first year out of the extension was his best year. He looked pretty good. He's never going to go up and get it. I sent you a clip from me playing Madden the other day where Komet tracked a deep ball about 40 yards down the field, and I thought, damn, can you imagine if Cole Komet could actually do that in real life? But he is what he is. A nice little safety valve for Caleb this year.
Mm.
Has a cool touchdown celebration. I mean, and he went to Notre
I
Dame. What more could you ask for?
I think Adam Hogue said it best recently. Shockingly, I was very happy with this as he says it. Uh, he expects Komet to probably get less usage this year, just because Justin Fields obviously heavily used him as an outlet valve, would speed through his
Yeah,
reads a lot of times, missing the open man, and then just go straight to his dump off a lot of times, which is kind of shocking because typically, I don't know, like obviously, Kevin, you play fantasy. I'm not going to be picking up Austin Eckler, for instance, this year because Austin Eckler gets a lot of work as a dump off, and I don't see like typically when you're looking at like a running quarterback like that, say Jaden Daniels, you're probably not going to be
yeah.
seeing much work.
I think that's a good
Yeah,
call. Jaden.
he'll
Yeah,
probably run
basically
first before dump off.
no kind of run first ish quarterback really ever throws checkdowns to the running back.
Yeah,
Like Fields didn't. Like they use the tight end
Fields
a
did
little bit
to
further downfield,
yeah,
but
Komet,
they're
yeah,
never really looking to swing it.
yeah,
It feels like so. I think that's a good call.
yeah,
Um,
but it is a shocking thing to think about because it is something that Fields did check down quite a bit, but his check down was to like Cole Kmet more so than say any of our running backs who at that I think last year I don't think we would argue any of them were real receiving threats anyway. So
yeah. I guess the last thing I'll say is a lot of the times people will I'll see on Twitter as much as I try to avoid this type of shit. So people rightfully say this is an amazing situation, weapons wise, that Caleb is walking into. Um, then people on Bears Twitter will be like, yeah, three potential number one receivers, sure. And then they'll always call Komet a top 10 tight end. And after last year, that may technically be true or at least close to true but we've got to be honest with ourselves that there's only seven actual good tight ends, seven or so. So like it's really not saying that
and
much.
it's only
You could say
recently
top
jumped up.
10, but like you're being a little ingenuous. But he's good. I like him. I like having him.
It's only just recently jumped up to 10. I think a couple of years ago I would have argued that there's like 4 or 5 tight ends that actually matter, and everything after that is basically the same shit. Like
Yeah, I mean when I'm saying seven, I'm counting just the guys that are clearly better than Komet before there's a clump, and it's like
right, but I also don't
that
think
that
like
that list maybe ends with like Dallas Goddard, like just somebody like Dallas Goddard's obviously better than Komet.
yeah, I mean, and
Also, not a huge difference maker, but just is obviously better than Komet.
yeah.
Komet's in
Well,
a
no, but
tier below that.
my point also is we've got a couple rookies. Like I'd put Kincaid. I think Kincaid's going to have a nice breakout year. We didn't
Yeah,
have
I'd rather have him next season than Komet.
yeah, but what I'm trying to say is like you've got a couple guys who I think just recently pulled into that category, whereas before there was like 4 or 5. It's just
Yeah,
very
so what
hard to
you
find.
got?
It's hard to find a tight end that's a difference maker. It's almost, in my opinion, as difficult as finding a quarterback that's a difference maker.
You got
They
Kelsey,
just don't exist.
Kelsey, Kittle, uh, Laporta now,
Andrews.
Andrews,
Um,
Hawkinson.
there was a
Um,
year where Waller might have been it. Hawkinson just recently became it.
well,
Like,
Waller's retired now,
yeah,
so
that's what I'm
you don't
saying.
have
There was
to.
a year that Waller was probably there. No longer because he's retired, and even last year probably not in that category. And then Hawkinson just literally became that over the past 2
Yeah.
years.
Which
And then
again,
again,
he's done basically on his second contract. So another
yep,
example.
yep. So it's
Then
we could go
and
back and
Joku's
forth a little
clearly
bit.
better. It's clearly better. There's like 7 or 8 guys that are clearly better. So when you say top 10, fine. But like, come on, you know what you're doing. He's not actually
Yeah,
there's a difference.
yeah. And you're gonna basically once you get into that range, what you're talking about is you're talking about guys, tight ends that will get you 500 to 700 yards in a season. Somewhere within that can fluctuate back and forth. And I would say Komet's probably going to be looking more at a down year, unless he really does take that next big step as he progresses as a tight end. He'll probably be looking at a down year with all the other weapons that we'll be spreading it around to.
Yeah.
That's just
So
how I
let's
see it.
that's just what the one thing from 2023
Yeah.
that we forgot to hit on. So now for the first time ever, we can get into 2024 moves and give our captivating thoughts on those things. So
So,
uh
so captivating. So
yeah,
captivating.
so starting off, we know we have the number 1 pick. We know we got the number 9 pick. I can't remember what the hell else we had.
Just
What was
have
our next
Goku,
pick?
Goku and Vegeta wave five to everyone who's listening. Um, Third pick. It
We
would be the
traded our
third round
second round
pick.
pick for Sweats. Then it was third
Yeah,
round pick, a fourth round
which would
pick, another fourth
be
round pick, another fifth round pick, and then
Kyron, our left tackle, or right, swing
hey,
tackle.
draft stuff goes next. No spoilers on these.
Wait, hold on. I'm confused what the hell we're talking about. You were bringing up picks. Now I'm confused.
I'm saying,
ADHD, baby.
I'm
ADHD.
saying,
I lost you.
I may have been a little unclear. I'm just laying the groundwork for what we're going into the 2023 or 2024 off season with. We also have a lot of cap space still.
Oh yeah. So we had our first. We had 1 and 9, right? We had our third round pick and our
Two fourth
fourth
round
round.
picks and a fifth round pick
Fourth,
going in.
we didn't have a fifth round pick. I thought we had a. Do we have a fifth round
We
pick?
did. We did. We'll get to it. We did.
Okay.
Um, so the first 2 moves of the offseason, and again, we really don't have to spend much time on this. I'd like to get back to your prior knowledge that you had of some events from last Saturday when we have a chance, because you missed what I was going for the first time.
I'm still missing what you're going for here. So we'll
So
keep going.
today's Saturday, July 20th. You don't
Yep.
know of any extremely notable thing that happened last Saturday?
Donald Trump.
Yeah, he gave a big speech and it went well. That's
Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. You guide us through this. You guide us
I'm
through
just
this.
pretending that you had knowledge of it. It's a joke. Calm down, NSA. Jesus.
I'm gonna get arrested. I'm so fucked. I'll have to explain to them
So
that I know shit.
the
Oh
first 2
god.
moves of the offseason, we're pretty predetermined, but you can give thoughts on them if you want. We
I'm not
waived
part of the deep state. If you're listening, I'm not part of the deep state. I don't care. Also, all your conspiracy theorists suck ass.
that honestly that could not have been less convincing. I never thought you were part of the deep state until you just did that.
I am part of the deep state.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Nobody part of the deep state would ever say that. So we waived Eddie Jackson and Cody White here, a couple of longtime Bears.
So stupid. I'm sorry. Okay, so we waived Eddie Jackson, Cody White here.
Pretty predetermined. We give them the eulogies if we want, but I don't know if it was
pour one out for
that happened.
Kojak.
Eddie had a little renaissance in 2022, and then partially because of the Liz Frank injury, probably stunk, and also it didn't stink, but he wasn't very good.
He was fine.
He was fine. He was noticeably worse than in 2022, I would say. I would say he was basically in line with the 4 years they had him basically having to play more of a strong safety role, which was never his thing. He was like that. You weren't mad at him, but he wasn't really good. Whitehair, on the other hand, absolutely fucking blew last year. Worst season of his career.
Also fine.
Last year?
It was okay.
He got benched for Lucas Patrick and Dan Feeney, dude.
It was, yeah, I mean,
45 overall grade. Come on. He was awful.
Okay, fine. He was ass. His
What I'll
ass.
say, what I'll say for Whitehair is he started every game of his rookie season. Do you want to guess what his PFF grade was
Oh,
as
I'm
a
sorry.
rookie
There's a
center?
gnat. It's rookie center. 70.
I'm gonna double check this. 70. That would be pretty good. You'd be pretty excited to have a rookie
It
center who
would
put up
be
a 70, right?
incredibly good.
And played basically every single snap that season.
I looked up his grade. Holy shit. What happened?
87.5.
Wow.
This and so I think there's a chance you were paying a little more attention than I was in 2016 because I was immediately
I was in my
disfranchised
masters.
by the John Fox era.
Yeah, I was in my masters, so I was not at that
So
point.
I knew Whitehair had been good, but looking back on this, we would have had no reason to think anything other than what a Chiefs fan thought after Creed Humphrey's rookie year. Like, this dude is going to be our center for the next 12 to 15 years. This is an incredible draft pick that we got here. An 87.5 grade.
Okay.
Had some more good years along the way, some bumpiness in there in between.
So I remember 2019. So here's the thing. So I remember 2018 was good and 75.2. I'm looking at the grades now. 75.2. 2019 was a bump off, but I bet you if you looked at this, it was because he split time. Remember we did the Jam Dan and him flipped to, so he flipped over to center. He flipped over the guard and James Daniels flipped over to center for half the season. And then they flipped him back. The moment they flipped him back, our offensive line starts playing incredibly better than they were previously. And I bet you if you look at that grade split, I bet it's absolute ass when he's playing guard, and then when they flipped him back over to center, he's playing a lot better. I gotta wonder how much of this has to do with the flipping back and forth, because then in 2020 he jumps right back up to a 76.3, right? Which is, I get it, a 76 to some people might sound like a C. That is a damn good grade on PFF.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, also, especially after his rookie year, it was typically very good run blocking and often below average pass blocking. That 76 you're referring to, I'm guessing that's probably the case.
That was the case there, but his pass blocking was, I mean, he's had decent pass blocking grades. Not great. Yeah. You're right. That's fair. The 2 years, he had 2 years of very productive pass blocking. 77.2, 86.7, 2018, 2016. But the rest of them have not been great. In the 60s, they've been average, right? Like a little above replacement level, essentially.
So up and down career, it started in a way that made you really had every reason to think that he was going to be like a perennial Pro Bowler, more or less. But I'll just say for Whitehair, he absolutely need to be released. He is bad now, and just remember him as he was, not for what he is. So pour one out for him too. Yeah. Eddie, I mean, we don't have to get too much into Eddie, but you love Eddie. He just signed with the Ravens yesterday.
He did just sign with the Ravens.
He's gonna look cool in that jersey.
He is gonna look cool in that jersey. He's probably.
I don't want to see him in a different jersey, but yeah, but you put Hamilton at nickel and Eddie and Marcus Williams patrolling deep. They could do some fun stuff.
Do a 3 safety look. Yeah, that'd be fun. I don't know.
I'd love if Eddie. I would love if Eddie had a. It would be a shame not to see it in a Bears uniform, but cool. But speaking of Eddie, we needed a new free safety, and then we signed Kevin Byard to a 2-year
before free agency starts contract. Because he gets cut. And as you know, if somebody gets cut, they are basically available to be signed right away. They don't count towards compensatory picks, which is a nice way of going about grabbing your free. So there's a few reasons why I actually do like this move. I don't know where our compensatory calculation is at the moment. I highly doubt we have any picks, to be fair. But picking somebody up who just got cut, always a nice thing to do right during or before free agency, right? Because you don't have that count towards your compensatory pick calculation. On top of it, Byard, I know a lot of people talk about the fact that he had a poor season the year before, but before that, we're talking all-pro safety for most of his career. And
2021, I believe he was the best safety in football by PFF, and then he had 2 other grades above 85, I think, in 2 other seasons of his career. And then, as often happens in the secondary, you have a couple bad games and it tanks your grade, and therefore he's got some in the 70s, but never just always has been thought of as one of the best safeties in the NFL, if not the best.
And then the last year, both with the Titans and with the Eagles, not so great. In fact, I think he graded better with his time with the Eagles than he did with the Titans.
This is kind of interesting to me with Byard, and I can't wrap my mind around it because I just cannot claim to have watched enough of him this past season. I've watched enough over his career to know that in his prime, I would agree that he was once the best safety in the NFL. Last season, so even on the Titans, his overall defensive grade was 67.3. His coverage grade was only 61.2. Passable, but not good. About replacement level. With the Eagles, his defensive grade was 72, better. His coverage grade was 68.5, better. If we plug that in, we can work with that. It's not great. It's a little better than what Eddie did this season. And he's about to turn 31. So I don't want to say there's untapped upside there. It probably just is what it is at this point. But it's very possible we're going to watch him live and say, God damn it, this guy is washed up as hell. But
$15 million over 2 years. I'm not that stressed out. It's a cheap deal for a guy who has potential upside if he wants to have a little bit of a bounce back season, an aging vet, but also an aging vet who, if he's hitting his regression and about to hit a wall, it's going to be off a cliff and could be a major hole. So I go either way. I like the move. I think it's a smart move if you feel safe with our depth at safety. I don't know if that's the case, which would be my one concern.
Depth is a bit of a concern. We did sign another guy we'll get to in a second. I'll say this. I was banging the drum because I always, put together my little under the radar-ish free agent picks. I really wanted Geno Stone. He ended up going to the Bengals for 2 years, $14 million. He's 25. He's gonna play out the season at 25 years old. He was good on the Ravens last year. Being good on the Ravens is tricky. It can be fake. You have Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams next to you, good cover corners, crazy schemed up pass rush. There's not a whole lot that they're asking him to do. So we'll see. I would have gone Geno Stone and given him a little bit more money than the Bengals did.
Yeah,
giving him the Byard money, but I had no issue with the Byard.
You also don't always have control. That's the other thing. Comes back to Hard Knocks. Kind of why I brought up that part is you don't always have control on who you can and cannot sign, who will come back to you and say, do you want to beat this offer? Or no, you know what? I don't really care to play for the Bears.
Sure. So granted, I think I was projecting like 3 years, 25 million. Like it wouldn't have been, he would have signed with us for the deal I would have been willing to offer. But I don't have the information that Ryan
depends on if he wanted 3 years or 2 years. It's another thing that happened during the episode was, he only wants a 2-year contract for one of the guys that they were talking about. Throwing that out there. Like, we don't know. We don't know if we could have beat it or not.
Point is, I probably would have blown the Bengals offer out of the water. I suspect for the offer I would have given, Geno would have signed here. Again, I don't have the information that Poles does, but I'm going to make a prediction.
Geno Stone, if you are listening, please tell us, would you have accepted the offer that Kevin is asking?
I'm going to say Geno Stone is going to have a better season than Kevin Byard, and I suspect that Byard will not be the reason that our defense does poorly when it does poorly. But I also suspect that I will find myself often agreeing with the Titans fans and the Eagles fans on Twitter who say he's washed up, even though the PFF grades don't really reflect that strongly.
I don't think he's washed up, but I do think he is a potential weakness in the defense. I do like the fact that he brings that veteran presence and leadership.
I like the veteranness of it all. He was given some interviews. He was one of the guys. I think he was the guy after Caleb's bad camp. He was the one to let the media know. Caleb got us yesterday. We got him today. He's already, vocal leader. He's been there before. Absolutely not a bad signing. Just not the sign. Not not the A+ I wanted it to be. But hey,
The way
solid
that
grade.
the way that I would put it is, and I from here, I don't know if we need to talk anymore on Kevin Byard. A good signing, like it's a perfectly fine signing. I have no issues. I have no issues with it. But does that mean that we filled a hole that we've created with Bojack leaving? I have no idea. We didn't do enough to really add any safety, like a safety net in case we didn't. Some kind of potential upside swing outside of him. So
A
that's
safety net. A safety net. Oh my god.
safety. The punts. Let's go on to the next move. What happened next?
I just want to say with Byard, it's weird to say there's untapped upside with a 31-year-old, but there is the upside that he could bounce back. So like, there's that too. That could be awesome. I'm not going to predict that, but
I
that'd be great. Would love
I
that.
had mentioned that. I just think that
And definitely a free
there's
safety
more
type
chance.
next to Brisker. Great, pure free safety type. So that's good. Next move though.
Yeah.
Franchise tag?
After years of oh yeah, I don't have that down here. So yeah, we slapped the old tag on Jalen Johnson.
I had a feeling you might have missed that because of the extension. Yeah, so the JJ tag, kind of obvious, was coming. We weren't going to let him walk. They said they weren't going to let him walk. We eventually extend him, but let's move on to the next move before that extension happens. I don't remember if we do the extension right before anything else happens. I can't remember where it lands.
I mean, we're already on him. Let's just talk about the extension now.
All right, cool. So we slapped the tag on him. I think most people knew that there would be a potential for an extension. I think I went into little bit of a humble brag, as most of this podcast feels like a humble brag for me. The Bears go into last season, with everyone being like, "Where's the JJ extension?" And I was just like, "He's betting on himself, guys." JJ knows that he can play it off much.
Not my experience.
What?
I'm sorry. This podcast being a humble brag for you has just not been my experience. But with the shit you say, I assume you're saying this stuff on purpose to look like an idiot.
You're an asshole. So I believe last year I had the tweets about it. I think I might have said it on here too. On the few my voice just cracked. On the few podcasts we had. The JJ went into last year explaining that he doesn't believe he's going to get a top 5 contract. He knows he's not a top 5 guy. Why the hell wouldn't he bet on himself? I had a feeling he wasn't taking any of the negotiations going into last year seriously, because the way that he played, if you look at the cornerback markets, a lot of the mid cornerbacks that don't reach that top of the market, guys who are CB1s, maybe CB2s, outside the top 10, they make money, not really the greatest. It's not like they even come close to that $20 million mark. So it would make a lot of sense if he said, "Well, I'm not going to negotiate here. Let's see if I can get myself up there." And I don't mean to be a jerk to all the Bears fans who think that JJ was a top 5 corner before last year. I mean, we talk about him, we both love him, but he didn't perform like one. He hadn't performed like one yet. A lot of that has to do with the people that he has around him, right? It's a weak link system. You can be screwed, especially because of all the communication that needs to happen on the back half. Match rules make things a lot more difficult when you're passing people off, taking them on, etc. So it's not like it's on him performance wise before that, but he did go into this season saying, "Hey, let me bet on myself." I personally think he went into this season saying, "Hey, let me bet on myself." Does it, succeeds, plays at about like the only corner that I would say played close to how Sauce Gardner played. Like there isn't many corners that could honestly say, "Hey, I put up that same kind of performance as who I do think is the best corner in the league." So
last season, I don't think anybody would have anybody besides a weird homer would have a major argument for Jalen having been the best cornerback in the NFL last season.
Yeah.
Got to see him do it again. But, to the point of betting on himself, we've already talked about this, but, we agreed with him because we agreed that there was definitely another level. There were all the signs in the world there. So made total sense. Also, to your point of cornerback contracts, I'm looking at highest paid corners in the NFL. The top 8 corners in the NFL, Jalen's number 8 at 19 average annual value,
Mhm.
19 million. Do you want to know? Do you want to guess how much number 9 makes?
I would put it around. Yeah, how low do I want to go? 15? Let's go 15. I'll
Very
be
14.8.
yeah. I was
So
gonna say it's between
huge
15.
chasm.
Yeah,
So that's what Jalen was looking at until he did what he just did.
it's very
Most
much
likely.
like the linebacker market, and it's just something. It's stupid that I have that. Like I know the trends on them well enough to know that that's what it was gonna
Yeah.
look like. Um, don't take as much time thinking about stupid fucking contracts like I do, people, because
And that's
it's
actually a new contract, the 14.8. Prior to
yeah.
that, it would have been 13.5.
I would have figured around
Um,
13 and a half during the time JJ was probably looking for an extension. That's probably the money that he'd be looking at. And I'm like, why the hell would
so
he sign that? That would be stupid. But that's what he probably would have been worth at that time.
so he signed for that. Legarius Sneed gets traded to the Titans and ultimately signs a contract for an extra 100 million a year with 1 extra million guaranteed. So set that portion of the cornerback market. Still comes in behind Trayvon Diggs and AAV, but above in total guaranteed.
The corner
Um,
market makes no sense. This past year's corner market made no sense. If you had asked me after this year, I would have thought so. Like, obviously, the 13 and a half is what I thought JJ would have been worth going into the year. After this year, I was like, oh, he's going to reset the market. It's about time to reset the market. The market hasn't been reset since what, 2021, I want to say, with Jair Alexander getting the contract he got. Am I
uh
wrong? Yep. So it's been 2 years. We saw a 25, $30 million jump in the cap. Why would he not reset the market? And he doesn't. He doesn't even hit 20 million. I think AAV, what is he at? Like 19.8, something like that.
Jalen is at 19
JJ,
exactly.
19 exactly. Yeah. I want to say Jair. I have OTC open. I could probably just go to corners right now. But before actually, no, I'm gonna guess.
I'm
Uh,
on it.
yeah, Jair's at 21.
Yep. Yep.
Let's go. Um,
Now Denzel Ward is at 20.1, but Jair only got 30 million guaranteed
hmm.
and 30 million fully guaranteed.
JJ focused on guarantees. And I remember having this when I was doing the breakdown. And this is always, again, if you're going to focus on guarantees, you're not focusing on that record breaking number. Because if you want more in guarantees, they're not going to give you as much in potential.
Yeah. And
And
that's where
I like that.
as a GM, you gotta love it for JJ. As a
Yes.
GM, so two things. I wish he didn't bet on himself as a Bears fan.
Yeah.
I wish he didn't care about the guarantees as much. Here's the big flashy AAV number, and here's 25 guaranteed. Like that's what
Yeah.
I like. Be
Because you
stupid
can
like
move.
Jair.
Yeah.
Think that
Because
you're the team captain because you're in Carolina. Be stupid like Jair. Don't be smart like Jalen.
what happens is if Jair starts to have a bad season, you can move off of him really freaking easy. And it's nice. Right. But
Given
JJ's injury history, I remember saying this at the time too when we saw the contract. JJ's injury history would have told me, hey, this man wants to bet on the fact that I don't have the safety. Safety again. But we're talking corners this time. Not as funny.
I don't want
JJ
to.
would have been like, I don't have the safety of knowing that I'm gonna be playing through this contract.
I don't want to be
Excuse me.
backed into a corner with this bad contract.
So funny.
Right?
Um,
It actually
of
was
course.
fucking hilarious. Don't say it sarcastic. That's one of the funniest things that ever been said.
You don't know if I was being sarcastic. Maybe that's just how I sound all the freaking time. How about that? JJ,
It
you kind
actually
of knew
is.
going into it. JJ is JJ was probably going to want to focus on guarantees and focus on making sure that he makes the money that he signs for.
Yeah.
I
So
wasn't
good for
surprised at
him.
all. Yeah, I
Good
have
for
a good
him. Good for
breakdown.
us.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a good breakdown on Twitter on this. Maybe I'll retweet it one day.
At
On why the contract
A
works that way.
Michael 03.
Is
And I'm at
your
Kevy Dimes if you want to see some Big Brother
yeah,
thoughts.
big brother thoughts? Cool. Let's move on. So we got JJ contract
You've never
extension.
watched the show, but that actually is the way that they say it
What show
on
are
the
we
show.
talking about?
Big Brother.
I don't know. I have no idea.
So, well, you just said the way that the announcer welcomes you to the show, like "Welcome to Big Brother." You just said it.
Oh,
Isn't that
well,
funny?
look at that. It's like I could be an announcer. All right, let's move on. What's our next move?
Next we got after years of courtship, trading the aforementioned 5th-round pick for Ryan Bates.
All right, you had a comment that I thought was really funny at the time, and it was what was it? Ryan Poles and his boner for Ryan Bates. I don't remember exactly how you.
Sounds
Yeah,
like what I would say.
I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly how you phrased it. I laugh, and then I remember being like, "Well, yeah, but I mean, I get this trade." And then Elon NFL, right? Am I saying his name right? Had the exact same tweet, and I'm just like, "All right, this is fucking funny." But I remember I remember going into his and commenting, being like, "Hey, I mean, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. You want to swing interior offensive linemen." If you look at
Right.
the deal that we're inheriting, it's super freaking cheap. I think he's like 4 or 5 million now under contract with us. The
I
rest
think
of
we're
it,
only obligated for 3.4.
yeah. So it's super cheap. It makes a lot of sense. And we sent what, a fourth or fifth? Was that our
Fifth.
fifth? That was our fifth, right? Because we came into the draft with 2 fourths. We lost our fifth in this trade.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a good depth piece at interior offensive line in the fifth round that can start
Now
playing right away at that kind of value. I think it's a great move.
that so that I
If he is a swing interior offensive lineman, that's a great move.
so this is where I get a little more granular with my analysis, and I don't want to get too granular because this is not that important. But this a theory that I had, and I genuinely do believe, is that the lowest pick we had available, the lowest pick we had was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah,
I think if we had a 6th or 7th round pick, the Bills would have taken it. We just didn't have one to trade.
maybe. I mean,
And I think Poles, instead of like being like, well, we'll flip the 5th for a 6th and a 7th, like let's figure this out. Like let's do a little extra work before we
do a
flip.
pick
Like, he
for
was
a
just like,
player.
fuck it, we'll give the
Yeah,
fifth for Poles.
I
It's our
mean,
lowest
if
pick.
that's the
We'll give it
case, then I think they would have taken
Bates.
a. If that's the case, then I think they would have taken a future fifth.
Uh,
Right? I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
I
I
mean,
think
so
he's
the Bills had a lot of roster to backfill this year. So I think the Bills probably did want a 2024 pick. I don't. It's a theory that I just kind of feel like Poles got a tiny bit lazy and just said, "Here, take our worst pick this year. You could have it." I
you
don't
just
think.
you constantly think you can undercut. Like, I could have done this, and I'm like, Kev, I don't know. We don't know. We have no idea. I'm just throwing that out there. We have no idea, so I'm
I'm
not going to trade
actually
on this go.
I'm confident that I would not have done that because I wouldn't have been trying to trade for Ryan fucking Bates.
I think we needed. Okay, no, this is where I would disagree. I probably would not have been trying to trade for Ryan Bates, right? I'm
I would have
definitely
signed
not
him after he
trading.
got cut.
Potentially, if he gets cut, you don't know if he would, and you don't know if you'd be able to sign him, and you don't know what his money would have been like on a market. $3.5 million is super fucking cheap. If I give a 5th-round pick, which is jack diddly shit, let's be honest here. Once you start to get to 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's not that big of a
For
deal.
sure, but
I'm
asset
getting
management
a
is
hell of
important.
yeah, but we're talking about he goes into the open market. There's a chance he signs for 6, 7, and for multiple years, and
Come
I don't
on.
get him.
Come on. He's not signed for 6, 7. Come on. I understand you want to make sure you get the player, but it does.
You're gonna tell me that interior offensive line play with the way that the guard market's been moving, he's not gonna sign for 6 or 7?
Well, let's for the sake of brevity, let's
Move
skip
on
forward in
from
time. Let's
this.
skip forward in time, combine it with this, and talk about how we then signed Coleman Shelton, center, to a 2-year, $6 million contract.
Mhm.
Thoughts?
Are you trying to say that Ryan Bates wouldn't sign to that because Coleman Shelton signed to it?
I'm saying I always planned on combining these two moves because
Uh-huh.
for obvious reasons, and
So this is about
it
the
was
time that I
natural
would have
segue.
said
So I would say that if you want Coleman Shelton to be starting at center this year, which I think we agreed that like
probably the move.
it probably should be Shelton. I would say that if Coleman Shelton got 2 years, $6 million, it's a little hard for me to believe that a player that we both believe is worse would have gotten much more than that.
Younger, how old is Coleman Shelton?
Coleman Shelton, so Bates is 27 and Coleman Shelton is about to turn 29 in 8 days. Happy birthday in advance, Coleman
Happy
Shelton.
birthday, Coleman Shelton. So about 2-year difference. One actually a starting experience, one doesn't. Yeah, sure, maybe. I mean, I
Also,
know that.
Ryan, listen
What did
to
Ryan
your.
Bates get signed to last time around when he was on the RFA tag? Right, he's a restricted free agent. Is that what, or did they put a transition tag? I can't remember.
He was restricted free agent.
Free agent.
I don't remember exactly, but I do know that his base salary right now on the same deal is 3.4.
Yeah, but that's also because any of the signing bonus and all that shit would have gotten washed out.
But isn't
So I
that
don't know.
shit just goes out the window, and so the base salary is still there, and we just don't know what the other
Whatever
stuff was.
what he signed for AAV is what I'm trying to say. I'd have to. I mean, we could look it up. I'm too lazy. I don't really care to argue it too much. I'm pretty sure he got like 4
I'm
to
guessing
5.
4.5.
The market's inflated. I don't know. That's why I would say probably 6 or 7. Depends on it. And also, the center market hasn't jumped up. The guard market has. Ryan Bates is more of a guard.
I'm gonna say to your
I don't
point.
see him as a center.
I'm gonna say to your point. Had Bates been released, we would have had to compete with 30 other teams.
Yeah.
And even if we could get him for 2 years, $6 million in that ballpark, whatever, maybe he would have preferred to go somewhere else. Granted, the last time he was a free agent, he signed a contract with the Bears, so
Yeah.
it seemed like we probably would have had an inside track of some sort. Just for me, it
you also don't know if he would have gotten cut. I'm just throwing that out there. You think he would? They only have to pay him 3.5. You might.
But I'm also going to say this: we ultimately end up trading a future fourth for a 5th round pick. So now we're getting into a little bit of a cycle that you don't necessarily want to get into. So we ended up wanting that 5th round pick. I also will say,
here's where you have to look at those as two distinct moves.
Hang on. Address all my points. Address all my points. Hang on. Well, geez, now you threw me off my train of thought. But my other thing is, we don't necessarily have to have Ryan Bates to have an interior swing offensive lineman. It does not have to be that guy. And that's a little pacey to be like, well, it has to be this guy. That's how you sign Buster Screen, to say it has to be this one.
I am not saying that it has to be that one.
I'm arguing polls.
I think it is a good. I know. I think it's good value. So I don't know if Poles thinks that way. Obviously, he tries to go for him 2 times. Obviously, he might have a little bit of a Ryan Bates boner. Obviously, that might be bad process if that's all true. I'm just saying it's good value, so I'm not going to sit here and argue against it. Have your fucking Ryan Bates boner as long as you do it for good value. I think getting a swing interior offensive lineman that is a good swing interior offensive lineman for a 5th at $3.5 billion. Fuck it. Like, I think it's a good move. I have no qualms with it. Now, when we start talking about is he actually competing for that that OC move, like that offensive center, that center position,
most people think he's going to get it.
I hope not. It sounds like it's now really a competition. It sounds like they had the idea that they would give it to him that still sign Coleman Shelton, because that's what the talks were going into OTAs. But now the talks are that it's going to be a competition. So it sounds like the coaching staff is realizing, hey, no, this guy's probably going to be our backup. I really hope it works out that way, because I don't think that Ryan Bates is better than Coleman Shelton. If he is, and this is where I do trust the coaching staff to sit there and say, we're not just going to give it to a guy because we traded for him. We are going to let a real competition actually play out and give it to the best player. So thankfully we've got both. Thankfully we addressed it with both. I'm going to just kind of end it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll also point out neither one is very good. Neither one has especially good PFF grades. Coleman Shelton came out as 58 last year.
They're both significantly better than what we had previously.
Sheldon was a 6. Hang on. Shelton was a 66 last year, 58 in 2022. Not especially good. Bates barely played last year, and when he did play the year prior, put up a 61.4. Most of that time was spent at right guard. They're not especially good players. They're certainly better than Whitehair if they maintain that level of play. But yeah, we want the quantity competition, a route, and that's a little too Lucas Patricky for my taste. You know, there were some better centers available in free agency. I mean, some people think that maybe we're still looking at Connor Williams. I kind of doubt that. I'm
just gonna go back to what I said last episode, though, when I say most teams don't give a shit about centers. They just don't.
That's where I was going.
Because it's a position that gets
if there's a position you're going to sacrifice, center makes the most sense. And especially when you get into like the intangibles of it all, it's like a baseball team with a catcher. It's like, you know, him making the correct line calls is not going to show up in these PFF grades. You know, just like a catcher, you know, knowing his pitching staff. It's not going to show up in the baseball stats. So yeah, there's a lot more to it. And if these,
he might get hit with blame on something that his guard is then there to help him out. So he gets beat on a pass block route. His guard's still there. He's getting help. It was easy to say, oh, this guy just got his ass kicked in half a second, but his guard was there to pick it up. The running back was there to divert the pressure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Typically, teams know how to scheme their blocking setup to protect that weak link, and that weak link being at the center is the easiest spot to have it at to scheme up that additional protection. So if they get beaten, they get their ass handed to them, you're able to still protect the quarterback. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I agree. And I also agree. I want Shelton to win. I'm just, again, our next episode is going to be nitpicky as hell if we do the what's our concern about every positional group. So I'm going to be concern. I don't think this is exactly how I would have handled it, and I think that's fine to say.
I also just don't give a shit about center because I'm with teams. I know most teams don't care. So
yeah,
I think that the center would be a lot less critiqued last year and this is where I say, Cody Ware was fine. Yeah, he sucked ass, but I go to like all center grades on offense and be like, okay, let's drop down. If you cut out by reps, right? Because there's a bunch that have like 4 or 5 reps to top 20%. You drop into the 60s by like 20. You're at 63.9, right? And you're in the 60s at like 14. Biotish 68.6, which is good, right? I think most people care. I don't know. I just disagree that it's an important position.
Yeah, so I'm going to move on to another unimportant position. We had 2 more major veteran additions this offseason, unless I'm forgetting one. But I believe for the second consecutive year, the Bears made the first official signing, or the first one that was announced of the free agency period, and it was giving 3 years, $24 million to DeAndre Swift. And now, if you would like to pull up if you have a way of pulling up rushing yards over expectation, I'm not going to do that. You can do that if you'd like. I don't really respect that stat. I'll say this: I don't think that DeAndre Swift fared very well in that. He looked good running through insane holes created by the Eagles, insane run blocking offensive line. You don't have to pull it up if you don't want. I just, it could be supplementary to talking about DeAndre Swift. Here's the thing: DeAndre Swift
where to pull it up from is the issue.
Visually, DeAndre Swift looks like a much better back than the results actually show. And I do not understand the need to sign really any running back. Certainly not for real money. Not that $8 million a year is going to make or break anything, but to me, that's a little bit more bad process that I don't love. Is rushing to be the first one to sign a guy, be the first one to sign a free agent running back, and a free agent running back that, again, his PFF grades, he was 66.5 last year on the Eagles. The year before that, 78.1, 83.2 rushing behind a good Lions offensive line. Before that, a 61.3. He's an exciting young back, solid runner. The highlights really stick out to you. He's not as good of a pass catcher as you think he is, and I think the Bears signed him thinking he might be a good pass catcher, not a very good pass blocker. I don't know what the plan for him is, but I don't really want him stealing that many touches from Khalil Herbert either. I think Khalil Herbert's a more effective runner. So those are my general thoughts on DeAndre Swift. I don't know if you have anything to add there.
So I pulled up Tayshat's site to see if I can get RYOE. Sadly, so rushing yards over expected. Sorry, RYOE. Sadly, he only goes up to 2022 right now for some reason. If I want to generate a chart, so I can't actually pull up that stat. Personal feelings on the signing. We kind of overpaid for a very mid back.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't like it. I don't care for it. This is to a much lesser extent, the Tremaine Edmonds deal from last year, in my opinion. Why?
It's just it was the
Why?
one where you're like, I mean, I had real free agent targets, and I never expect polls to think the way that I'm thinking, but like we signed Swift, and then we basically do nothing at all for
Like he's wearing
2-3
nothing at all.
weeks.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Sorry. No, I agree with you. That move made no sense.
It was
I don't have
tough.
much to add. I hope it proves me wrong. I hope he ends up just becoming everything that the Eagles thought he was going to be and the Lions thought he was going to be and everyone who's ever had him. He's on his third fucking team already in 4 years. Like, I hope he is everything that every team that has signed him expected him to be, and he balls the hell out, and I'm proven wrong. But that's a lot of money to sign a guy who hasn't really shown you shit. Now, to be clear, as a fantasy option last year, probably would have done a lot better because how many times did he get stopped at the 1 yard line? Should have probably scored those touchdowns. It's a lot of arguments to be like his production would be higher, strictly if he didn't get wrecked at the goal line and if Jalen Hurts didn't have the tush push to then score and take touchdowns away from him. Right? A
Yeah.
lot of short yardage situations were taken away, but he's also not a short yardage back for me to care all that much. Like, in my opinion, we're at the 1 yard line. Who am I handing that ball off to? Probably Roshan Johnson, who I'm also going to push back. I don't think we talked about this. I don't think he's going to be all that great.
I probably just
But in short yardage, let's
Yeah.
go ahead and hand that off.
I think there's multiple better options at the 1-2 yard line.
You know how much I like Herbert. I liked Herbert going into that draft. Was stoked when we got Herbert in the 6th. I think he was injured so much for last season. He's proven that when he's healthy, he's a damn explosive. He's like our version of Tony Pollard. What we thought Tony Pollard would be with the Cowboys last year, right? And what he was the years before. Just a very explosive back. I very much so like having Will Herbert. I think he'll continue to be the lead back. We'll see. You don't pay a guy, what was it again? 12.5 million a year, right? What did
eight
and a half, sorry. 8 a year? Sorry. I'm thinking of Saquon's in my head. I think Saquon got like 12, 5,
Giants Hard Knocks is in your head,
yeah. You don't pay a running back 8.5 and not give him a whole bunch of touches.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Again, I think it's they're envisioning some pass game stuff, some gadgety-ish stuff. They're not. I think Khalil's still going to be heavily involved, but it's just like I don't think these touches are worth wasting on their idea of what DeAndre Swift is, because the reality of DeAndre Swift is like some really cool highlight plays and a lot of shit. I wouldn't. I don't really want to watch DeAndre Swift this year. I'm not excited for it.
Yeah,
when he lost a big play, I'll be happy. And he's only 25. Pretty good for a second contract running back.
Out of Georgia.
He was drafted high in the 2nd round, and a lot of people liked him. There could be upside there, but I think the name is bigger than the production. And I think when you look at the underlying stuff of what you want a running back to be doing, he's even worse at that. Like, he, again, not a good receiver, not a good blocker. So, like, is he even a third down back? Like, I have a feeling at a certain point, trust is going to be lost in him when it's going to be like Roshan and pass protecting on third down often. I don't know. It feels like a waste to me, but
I agree. Now I go back to the comment that I had with you previously, which was, do I give a shit? It's 8 million, right?
It's one of those things. It's more what the 8 million signifies than the actual cap hit.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, well, it's not it's also the cash, right? I want to stop using just cap hit as like an underlying thing, right? Let's talk about cash. Like, you can use that cash that year. Yeah. People think of it as like, oh my God, the cap specific. Well, it's also the cash. We are one of the, I think, the second poorest owners from what I saw on a chart. If you exclude assets, like the team itself as an asset. So when you're talking about like the 8 million, you're talking about a lot of money that could go elsewhere for a team that's probably more cash strapped than it should be. But yeah, I'm also just gonna say, fuck it. If this is what they wanted to spend the money on, and it's only 8 million, whatever, we could have probably used that cash elsewhere this year. Just
Yeah.
not going to be stickler. I'm not that. What I'm trying to say here is I'm grading it on a scale, right? That's why I say it's the lesser Tremaine Edmonds. It's not as bad in my mind.
So before I rip through the other signings and then get to the big veteran edition, is Darnell Mooney the only UFA of note that we did not re-sign that you could think of? That's the one I could think of.
I mean,
I
we
don't
talked
consider
about Bojack
Gakwe of
getting
note.
cut. I don't
Yeah.
consider no. Yeah, he ends up getting what did he sign for again? It was like 12, 13 a year.
Oh no, I don't think so. Darnell Mooney contract. Darnell Mooney.
Oh, he got a decent contract if I remember correctly.
Oh, it was 13.
Let's
Man,
go.
that's
Man,
what I
I'm
would
good.
expect. That's what I would expect him to get if he had been
Good
better
ball.
this year. Yeah.
That's
I'm not
because
I'm not going to put anything on Mooney this year. I thought he was
that's
open
because he
plenty.
was fine. That's because he was open a lot. That's because he was just not thrown to a lot. That's because Bears fans think he had a lot of drops, but he only had like 3 or 5. It was very little. It was almost nothing. God forbid he has one bad game where he does drop the ball after a year of basic like 6 or 7 games of not getting thrown to. So it's like, hey, what the hell's the fucking point?
So let's get Mooney back
Who's
into the discussion
Who's
after I rip through these other signings here. So the other signings this offseason that I can remember, we signed swing tackle Matt Pryor, who's probably going to make the team. Might make Larry Borum expendable because he has some kind of performance-based escalator in his contract that the Bears might not want to carry. So Matt Pryor might be the new swing tackle alongside the. I don't want to. No spoilers. But there's another tackle coming. We signed.
the offseason happened, damn it.
Brought back Dainty Penis.
Yes!
Signed special teams linebacker.
That was
Amen.
oh, you do not just fly through Dainty Penis
We're gonna-
like that.
we're gonna-
I was stoked for Dainty
gonna get-
Penis.
We're gonna get him.
Mostly because I really wanted Dainty Penis custom jersey. Sorry, go on.
We'll get to all these guys. So I want to rip them off really quick. Linebacker, mostly a special team guy. Amen Agban Bamiga from the Chargers. Gerald Everett, also from the Chargers, tight end. Jonathan Owens, safety from the Packers. Most known for being the husband of
Simone Biles, right? Am I saying her last name right?
Jack Curran,
I believe
another
going to be
swing.
at the Olympics. Hold on, really quickly. He's going to be at the Olympics, I believe, and not at camp, if I'm correct.
He's got I think he has a week off.
Okay, that's what it was. Sorry, go on.
Jack Curran, another swing offensive lineman, can play 4 positions. It seems like from the Seahawks. Again, had never heard of him. And Brett Rypien, one of the worst quarterbacks in all of football.
Love it. Love it. I do love
any
the
guys
fact
any
that when
guys
we
that you want to
sign-
talk about.
Oh, I really quickly want to make this comment. When we sign a third quarterback, we make sure to sign a bottom basement third quarterback.
Yeah.
Nathan Peterman, let's go. It's awesome. I love it. I just love the fact that we just got to get garbage. It's just it tastes so good. It just tastes so good as a move.
Yeah. I mentioned this, I think, last time for whatever reason. I had my sights set a little higher quarterback. They weren't that high, but they were higher than Brett Rypien. I would have liked some actual competition for Bajent, but again, I get it. His dad was a quarterback in the league and was not nearly as terrible. And they're just putting people in the room that are just going to help Caleb that may have some knowledge to pass on.
Is it Rypien or Rippin?
I think it is Rippin.
Okay, just want to throw that out there.
There's certain names I don't hear enough that I just get into, like, I know how they're pronounced, but I just get into, like,
reading
this is how it looks on paper.
Yep. Yeah. Jalen Johnson is sorry, hold on, let me do myself oh god, it's like
that ain't doing nothing.
Jalen Johnson is tired of hearing about the Bears' potential. It's about action. We got to go out there and prove it. Did you hear me slam the desk? Did that come through?
It did not.
Damn.
But I totally disagree with Johnson, actually. I think if we can get one more top 5 pick, that'll set us up in 2 years. So then a couple of guys will leave, and we can naturally get another top 5 pick. Once we have to give Caleb a second contract, we'll have so many other top 5 picks that we might have a chance to compete for a wild card. So disagree with Jalen on that one.
It's so
No, of course, it's like an unimpeachable. Like, of course, yes. I find it very funny that was a push notification for you.
I don't know why that was.
Breaking news: Bears player thinks the Bears should be good.
Yeah, I don't know what else. I looked at it, I'm like, what the fuck? Sorry. Anyway. Where were we? Oh, we want to talk about those signings.
Or not.
Great
You
talk
don't
about
have to sign about any of them.
who are they again? No, let's go on. I don't have anything to really say. They're fine. I mean, you're talking about like death pieces for the most part there.
Dainty Penis, of course, your favorite nickname for a guy. I do not want him to make the team. I hope that somebody else can prove that they can return punts so that he's unnecessary.
It is a good sign if he doesn't make the team. It is not bad if he does, because he's probably.
I kind of think it is. I don't like that man.
Here's my
I've had enough. I had enough of him in the year they had to play receiver. That even if he's way down the depth chart,
it's
I
not about being a receiver.
It's
about.
I understand. I don't want him a part of it though. I don't.
But if it's Bayless Jones Jr., if it's VJJ who's getting cut instead of him, is it really that much of a bad sign?
I would be a little upset about that. Yeah. I would like to see Bayless returning kicks this year.
Okay, agree to disagree.
I think he can make a difference with the new rules.
Agree to disagree. Let's move on. I don't really have much to add there. I just want a Dainty Penis jersey because I think it's fucking funny, and I would do the full name, and I'd probably have it hyphenated, and then his number, Dainty Penis.
Before we move on, I want to look at one quick.
That might be
here.
my next DH gate order.
So I will quickly say that Jonathan Owens, so you talked about our safety depth, and this was an actual attempt to get safety depth. He got a good amount of playing time with the Packers last year.
For safeties,
59.6 coverage grade. He's definition of replacement level, if not slightly worse. Good special teamer. And listen, man, I'm not going to speak poorly of Simone Biles. That'd be crazy. She's one of the greatest athletes of our generation. It is cool that Simone Biles is coming to Bears games. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a little T Swift effect. Maybe. Highly unlikely, but maybe.
I mean, not like that, but like, fresh off her gold medal, they're going to show her up in the press box every once in a while. She's got a gold medal this year.
Let's go. Does he need to start,
Rebecca? You think Rebecca Andrade is going to beat her in the all-around? I don't think so. Come on.
I don't know who that is.
I know. Sarah makes her watch a lot of gymnastics.
Oh, cool. Yeah. See, I'm more of a track and field kind of guy. So.
Oh, that shit is so boring on TV.
Are you fucking kidding me? You don't like watching somebody throw some shot put?
I like a 50 and shot put. Yeah, sure. But like when it gets to running, anything over a 50, but less than a few kilometers.
You don't think a 200 is exciting? It's only 20 seconds, man.
A 50 is the most exciting thing to me. A 200 is fine. When you get to like half the track, whatever that
50s.
is.
Outdoor track doesn't even do 50s. It's like 100. Sorry, go on.
No, they do. They do. Oh. That's Bolt's whole thing. Is the 50.
No, his whole thing is 100 and the 200.
I saw them do the 50 in the trials. They definitely do the 50.
Okay.
Sorry, go on. Maybe it's
his world records in the 100 and the 200. Sorry,
okay,
go on.
My bad.
When they do half the track, that would be a 200. Track's 400.
It's when the difference between the inside lane and the outside lane makes it so hard to figure out who the hell's actually winning that it becomes unwatchable to me. And I don't know what the exact distance is, but whenever there's a turn and it widens out and the guy
only race that would happen,
the guy on the inside track looks like who's in first, but he's actually like in fifth, and it's actually the guy in lane 6 that's in first. That shit I can't watch.
The only race that would be an issue in is the 400 meter, because they don't move lanes in the 400, whereas they do in like the 800. So the 800, I believe they eventually all merge into the first lane. The 400 has 2 major turns, right? So you wouldn't know until the last straightaway. I think somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if you're watching and you actually care.
And if Adam uploads the goddamn episode.
Well, hey, I've uploaded all the others.
Have you? I didn't tweet about them.
Oh, they're all up.
You didn't tell me.
They're all up. They've been up.
All right.
You don't just check our channel?
No, I don't. There's no reason to. I have to look at myself. I don't want to do that.
All right, we'll talk about this offline. Let's get off the bullshit. We are
really quick. I think
we get to the draft.
Well, really quick. Gerald Everett. I just find it interesting that we signed a guy who's an actual guy, and
Oh shit, we should talk about Gerald Everett.
In theory, they do want to run some 2 tight end sets.
Yeah. He's on the non-football injury list. NFI.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's gonna be taking some time off camp. No idea why. I don't know if there's a reason posted yet. A little concerning. I think, okay, really quickly, the thing that bugs me a lot is it's one thing when it happens to guy 1 year, right? So like last year it was Nate Davis who's on the NFI. It's another thing when it's happened every fucking year. We have one new free agent hit the NFI, and it's frustrating. It is. I typically would say, and it's a nothing burger. It is a nothing burger. Let's all calm down. It's not that big until it becomes a big deal. It's not a big deal. But when it happens every year, it becomes fucking frustrating. Do you not agree?
That's what.
Like, it's frustrating.
Yeah, that's the most you can say. It's frustrating.
It's really frustrating.
The reality is, until we know more, like, I don't play football now, and I sometimes injure myself. So, like, I don't know. It happens.
Oh, I can't lift this arm up. I don't know if I told you this. I jacked up my rotator cuff, I think sleeping. And so like this is the furthest I can get until I start to get pain, and I cannot lift it up anymore.
So
it's kind of
the Bears sign you tomorrow. If the Bears sign you tomorrow, you're going on the NFI.
I'm going on the NFI. So I don't know what
I can't necessarily blame Gerald Everett until I know if he did some stupid bullshit. Who knows? Yeah. But yeah. I mean, you can't criticize him until you know more.
Yeah, there it is. I got it. I got it. Oh. All right. Good signing though. I appreciate it.
Good job, Adam.
This is gonna be the worst episode we've recorded since we've rebooted.
Oh, this is miles better than last episode. I promise you.
What do I want to say there? Yeah, no, Gerald Everett. I like the move. I think it adds good depth, right? Because like we're talking about we just said, okay, Komet could be a top 10 tight end, which doesn't mean all that much, because he's not a top 8. But Gerald Everett, on top of that, you're talking about having
like a top 20. He could be like a top 20, 25 tight end. He's not that much different than Komet.
Yeah, so we're talking about having 2 guys like that adds a dimension. It wrinkles in things. You can now run 12 personnel. 12 personnel, we can run 2 tight end sets. And have wrinkles to it. And I think that's fun. I think that's a lot of fun. I like the move. Yeah. That is a move we should.
I would hope that's not a sign. I would hope that's not a sign that they want to run too many 2 tight end sets, but it's fine. I like it, and if Komet gets hurt, we have a totally credible tight end to step in. Most teams don't have. I mean, I would say no team besides the Ravens have 2 tight ends that are both credible starters off the top of my head.
Yep, I would agree with that. Isaiah Likely breakout season incoming on the note of that, but we're not a Ravens podcast.
I think if it was going to happen, it would probably happen during the several times that Andrews has been hurt. I think he's a good player, but
he's looked very good when Andrews is out. He just doesn't get as many targets. I think that's just a trust thing, but we're not a Ravens podcast, so let's move on. I like that.
He's starting in fantasy every week that Andrews is hurt, so it's not like people are unaware of him. But he's still young; he can do something. Let's get past these other things. I do think the Pryor signing is interesting, coupled with the draft, just because I do think Larry Borum's on the outside looking in for a roster spot based on the performance escalator, but it's not any more interesting than that sentence I just said. Before the draft, we traded a 2024 4th round pick for Keenan Allen.
Hey.
Would you like to skip back? Would you like to skip to the draft now, or do you want to talk about Keenan goddamn Allen?
That's a good point. I forgot about that. It was right before the draft and didn't realize we hadn't touched on it. I'm just all over the place today. My ADHD is flying high. Keenan Allen, love the move. Want to back people off. I know it's awesome. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's old. He's what, 32, turning 33? His prior
He'll
two
play the entire
seasons,
season of 32.
yeah, he had this past season was definitely a career year. Like, cannot take that away from him. Good for him. That's absolutely fucking awesome that he was able to do that. And I hope that is a sign of things to come, but I doubt it because his last two seasons, he played a collective 8 games out of them. Not a lot. 2 years ago, I think he was injured for.
No.
2 years ago, I think he was injured for almost a majority of the season. I think he was out literally the entire season outside of maybe like a couple games. And then last year, shoot, tell me,
don't want to be a dick, but he did not miss any games 2 years ago, and he played 11 games last year.
2021, he played all of the season. Was it 2020 last game? No.
2020, he missed his first game. He missed week 16 and 17.
No, yeah, you're right.
Played
I'm thinking
the entire
2022.
season.
I think I've pushed out the season a little bit.
And 2022 wasn't even really that bad. I think people and there are points to be made, I think, especially about the age curve, but injuries not really as big of a problem with Keenan Allen. At least non-availability is not a huge issue with Keenan Allen.
He played 10 games. How did he play 10 games in 2022?
Don't know.
Yeah,
I played
right.
no games 22, so 10 is super impressive to me.
Yeah. 2013, 2023, he played 13. So I mean, he's missed 10 games in the last 2 seasons, which isn't all that bad. Fair.
It's not terrible. Here's the thing. It's kind of vibes and just knowing how old he is, because when somebody says online, as was said recently, that Keenan Allen is better than DJ Moore, or why is everybody assuming that DJ Moore is better than Keenan Allen? Statistically, there's not really a great an ironclad argument for that, right? Like Keenan was really, really, really good last year. Just undoubtedly, he was great. It's just,
again, career year from a Hall of Fame, wide receiver. So yes, he was great last year. But
I think
DJ Moore was
Hall of very good, most likely.
Potentially. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. If he does get in, it's going to take a while. I think there's a backlog. There's a backlog of a lot of positions.
I don't even know if Torrey Holt is in yet, and that's insane to me.
Yeah.
I think maybe he just got in. I don't know. If Torrey Holt's not in, Keenan Allen, you wait your ass for.
Yep. There's a backlog at wide receiver. There's a backlog at offensive line. So I know there are two positions in which he will take a bit.
But he's become a slot god. The later into his career he's gotten, but he's a legitimate slot god. And again, I think the reason that one would assume that he's in for a bit of a drop off is that, again, it was a career year. It's not likely he's going to replicate it, and he doesn't have to replicate it. But we do hope that he's good. We hope that he can, be like a 1,000-yard receiver and be the crafty slot presence that it would be really good for a rookie quarterback to have. But I don't know. You correct me if wrong. If you have a reason other than vibes and just looking at the number of years that he's lived on Earth, I have a feeling this could maybe go even a little worse than some slight regression.
I don't know. No, I don't. I think injury would have been what caused it, and I guess I'm wrong on his health status. So I would disagree if it's not that. And obviously, because I'm wrong on the health status, I don't know if I feel as strongly as I did going into this conversation. For some reason, I'm going to be honest with you, the 2022 season, I remember the Chargers not having their either wide receiver for a majority of the season. It was, and then last year, even a little bit, because they had to rely on Quentin Johnson a ton. So I'm a little shooketh that he's played.
So Mike Williams getting hurt made you see a lot of Quentin Johnson highlights. And then Allen ultimately did get her for the last 4 games of this season.
Yeah.
And then you saw a lot of Quentin Johnson and Josh Palmer and
But I
God
also
knows who
remember
else.
2022, and for some reason 2021. Well, 2021 doesn't make sense now that I think about it. I might have been combining 22 with 21. 2022 is what I remember specifically. Herbert had no help at all on offense, and I guess I'm wrong. Because he had 10 games of help at least from Keenan Allen.
So, you know what it is, because we used to watch some Chargers games and talk to each other. It was the lack of speed. It was that Mike Williams, kind of took up
Mike
the
Williams,
boundary, and Allen took up like the middle of the field and also kind of the boundary. And there was a layer missing to the Chargers offense that is still missing. Was definitely missing last year because they chose the wrong receiver. Should have taken Zay Flowers, or I mean, I wanted to see Jalen Hyatt, but whatever. But I think that's kind of what you're thinking of. It just seemed like there was something missing to the offense, and the play calling also did no favors.
Yeah, and I think I was screaming when they didn't take Zay Flowers. I was really pissed off. Anyway, let's bring it back to the Bears. No, I would disagree. I mean, I don't. Do I think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver? No, because you only have so many opportunities that need to get split between a bunch of guys.
If he's healthy, he could be.
He could be. Would I put it as a high chance? We're talking about a rookie quarterback throwing to a bunch of different guys. Opportunities get split. It's just, no. But I still think he'll be good. Like, that doesn't take away from the performance I think he'll have now that I'm less fearful of injury. Specifically because it won't be his fault that another guy is open and will take that target, right? He might also be open. That's where I'm getting at here. You're looking at target share and the split usage and opportunities, and I don't think the opportunities will be there at a high enough volume for him to get there, but he'll still play very well with those opportunities that come. That would be my argument.
I would just say, and I'm talking a little bit out of my ass here because I don't have like a concrete like, oh, here's the proof, but like he is going to play out this entire year at 32. At some point in his career, Keenan Allen will suck. Why couldn't it be this year? And I guess the reason is his skill set is not going to age as poorly as Tyreek Hill's, for example.
Which hasn't aged very poorly, but I know where you're going here.
It's going to at some point, and this could be the year for Tyreek Hill. I don't want to be the one that sees the drop off. I want the other team to see the drop off. I don't want us to have just traded for the drop off.
It's
and it's coming. It might not be this year. In fact, I'd say it probably won't be, but it could be.
You're talking about the route savant versus, say, a speed twitch guy. Speed twitch guy age is going to affect the speed twitch guy. Route savant, you see a lot of route savants eventually. Like even the physical guys, like Nuke Hopkins. Nuke Hopkins relies very much so on physicality, getting up there, catching the ball, etc. Explosiveness, right? You see a drop off with Nuke. You see a drop off, but you don't see a drop off with Davante Adams, who can also make the catch between three guys. But really, Davante Adams is more of a route savant. He'll get open. He will create space. He knows where the space is, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So
it's guys. I mean, Adams could have a credible second half in his career, and he already kind of has started it as just a slot receiver like Allen. So it's a slot guys. So I don't know. I don't. I mean, you were never really getting an explosion out of Keenan Allen. I just, in the back of my mind, I remember like the Moose and Muhammad signing in like 2005 or whatever it was.
Moose droppings.
It's like I mean, I don't know. You don't necessarily want to be getting a 32-year-old receiver. I'll say this though, like people on, Kevin Cole specifically was like, the Bears. This is a F move for the Bears. Who trades a 4th round pick for a 32-year-old receiver? It's like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, have some nuance. You can say all the things that I just said, and hell, you could probably say it a lot smarter than me. Acknowledge the downside, but also we did just trade a 4th round pick for a guy who put up over 1,200 yards in 13, 14 games last year. That's awesome.
Yep. Granted, it's 1 year left on the contract. I go back to now. Once you start talking about a 4th round pick, I will start to say, okay, you're looking at a decent likelihood of finding a role player, right? somebody who could have in the draft itself. You have a decent likelihood of finding a role player. You definitely have a high chance of finding a very high contributing special teamer and backup, right? And the low chance of finding a starter. I typically like to keep those picks, but if you're gonna trade it, you're trading it for a weapon on a 1 year deal. And I'm not going to be upset by that. It is again a low risk, high reward move, in my opinion. Like, there isn't that much of a risk of losing a 4th round pick, and there is a chance that you do get a huge, you get the Keenan Allen for that year and potentially maybe even an extension for another year. I don't know. I highly doubt it. You do get
And
that chance.
I'd probably prefer not to at this point.
Yeah, yeah, but you do get that chance, and I am not going to argue against it.
And also, just the type of receiver he is for Caleb is really useful. There's a premium on that.
He's a quarterback friendly guy, right? Because he's going to get open. He's a possession receiver. He's going to get open on his routes, and you can rely on him to go out and get the ball. That's it.
So, a guy like Kevin Cole, who, again, I respect what he does. I think he's very smart at those types of things, but don't overstate. You're trying to look like the smartest guy in the room. It's of course not a terrible move. I think it might ultimately be like a C move if things go poorly.
People probably think I'm putting on blinders. That's not what I'm doing here.
No idea what you're doing.
A pigeonhole is what I'm trying to get at. Is Kevin Cole has a very pigeonholed view of the world.
Oh, you should have gotten a pigeon and pointed at their butthole. That would have pointed through.
See, I don't have a pigeon like you have a fucking hamster here that I could, stand up and shove up my asshole like that. Yeah. Well, no, I put its face into my asshole, so it's pigeonholed.
Right.
Yep. Anyway, we've talked Keenan Allen.
I zoned out. I was visualizing stuff. I didn't necessarily need to be visualizing.
Dude,
I'm good with Keenan. Also, the other thing is we didn't have Keenan, or if we hadn't traded for Keenan at that point, our number 2 receiver would have still been Tyler Scott going into the draft without knowing what was going to happen with the 9th pick. That would have been bad. We had to add somebody. I'd say that maybe Carolina got slightly better value when they traded a 6th round pick for Deontay Johnson, who we just had a little disagreement on. But
was it only a 6th
rounder for Deontay? It might have been a 5th. It was definitely very low cost. You're way too on Deontay Johnson. We're not going to get into this. He's not that good, but it might have been slightly better value. I guess the other question is final question would be, could I interest you in Darnell Mooney for 3 years, $39 million over Keenan Allen?
No.
I agree only in the context of Caleb Williams needing to have all the support he needs in year 1, though. I think in general, a team is probably better off with Darnell Mooney, 3 years, $39 million. I think the Atlanta Falcons would not trade what they did to get Darnell Mooney for what we did to get Keenan Allen, for example.
I think Darnell Mooney is a good wide receiver 3, like a very, very good wide receiver 3. I think as a wide receiver 2, and this is where we don't know we've got Rome, right? I'm pitched in my mind. Rome ain't there yet. I'd rather have Keenan Allen if I don't know I'm going to get Rome.
I'd rather have now for Caleb, but I just think if I'm not super invested in my new quarterback's development, I'm not that concerned about having the savvy route running guy, and I'm maybe looking for a little more value 2-3 years down the road. And
you're looking at the long. I know you're looking at the long-term strategy there. What if Keenan Allen can go till he's 35? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. I doubt it so much that I would bet against it. I would put good money against it. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I don't know. Let's move on to the draft, though.
I'm being a little garbled with Allen. It's just I'm just prepared for the drop off. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, but I don't want to dismiss it outright. The drop off is going to happen someday, and why couldn't it be this year? Is all I'm saying there.
I agree with you I would have agreed with you more if the injury history was what I
Yeah,
thought it was.
if I hadn't schooled your ass on injury history.
Hey, you got me there. Not gonna lie, I actually feel kind of embarrassed. I think this is the second time I've said something stupid.
It's you and everybody else though. You're not the only one. If anybody tells you anything about Keenan Allen, it's injury history, and he's been on the
Yeah.
injury report a lot in his career, no doubt. But he plays and he plays well.
Yep.
So you're not crazy for thinking that. But anyway, let's get to the draft. We gotta have.
We're gonna
With
talk
the
about
first pick,
Fields versus Caleb.
with the first pick, we take no, absolutely not. I'm not doing that.
Okay.
Oh fuck! I forgot the move. We traded Justin Fields for whatever the fuck we traded him for.
Future
wanna talk about it,
sixth
go
that could
ahead.
turn into a fourth. Let's go.
If you want to talk about that,
Man.
go ahead. Go ahead. I'll be right back. If
How long are you
talk
gonna
about
take?
Caleb. Do whatever you want.
How much do I have to take up? Go do your thing. Go do your thing.
20 seconds. 20 seconds.
Okay. So the only thing I want to say there about the trade is I told you so. I love Fields. I love Fields going into the year. I lost faith in Fields by the Minnesota game. I remember talking to Kev about this, saying we knew that would be a bad game, but this was the thing. Knowing it would be a bad because like he was showing some signs, and we're kind of like getting a little excited. We're like, okay, maybe he could do it, but then I'm like, well, Minnesota's about to blitz the hell out of him. You're gonna get a bunch of really exotic looks. So this will probably be a bad game. So when I told Kev that was the moment that I had pulled, like that was the official moment that I was like, nope, we got to move on from the guy. And he's like, but we knew he was gonna have a bad game. I said the confirmation is why I knew it was the moment. I needed him to prove me wrong, and he didn't, and that's an issue. If I know what his weakness is.
Did
What's
you
up?
mention how excited I was? Did you mention how excited I was to bet against Justin in that game? My
Oh,
exact
yeah,
words.
sorry.
I'm so excited to bet against Justin in this game.
I forgot about that. Yeah, he sent in our text message exchange. It was, "I'm excited to bet against Justin that first game against Minnesota," and I'm just like, "Yeah, that's probably a smart move. You might as well." But yeah, that a few months later, I remember having that conversation. You're like, "Why was it that game? We knew he was going to have a bad game." Because I'm like, he confirmed to me that I know what his weakness is, and if I know what his weakness is, and he can't fix it, then why the fuck am I betting on him in the future?
I'm gonna say this. It is completely insane to say that Justin Fields is only worth a future 5th round pick or whatever. He's not. Too. I don't think any team in the NFL would
Well,
actually
okay,
agree
hold
with
on.
that.
There's a reason why, though. We got to remember that all of these reclamation projects that other teams have taken on, the Sam Darnolds, the Carson Wentz's, the et cetera, have failed miserably, right?
I don't think Wentz is a good example. I get it. But I also don't think there was as much to. I don't think there's as much reclamation with Justin Fields. He already has a high floor.
Does he?
Yes, you absolutely know the worst
That
thing you can get from Justin Fields, and it'll still move a little bit.
it'll move a little. Oh, you know what? Fine, fair, sure. The multiple fumbles in a fourth quarter when we're up by a lot that leads to the Broncos beating us. That everybody wants to blame everyone else except for Justin Fields for on that game. Yeah, sure.
Well, let's say
That is a great floor. The floor that just comes out from underneath you as you should have a game.
Well, let's put
One.
them on a good team. Let's put on a good team. Let's put on the Ravens, for example. You don't think the
Oh,
Ravens? You don't think the Ravens?
Please don't do the Lamar bullshit with me. Please don't, because Lamar attacks the middle of the field like an absolute elite quarterback does. Please don't.
And do you think that I am unaware of that?
I know you know that, so please don't use the Ravens as a fucking example because other people are not.
I'm using one of the smartest teams in football as an example. You don't think the Ravens would have given a 4th round pick for Justin Fields
If they didn't have
Or
Lamar?
you don't think that's the no. Even with Lamar.
Oh, I
Why
think
not?
that's his value. Fine, whatever. Sure, a 4th round pick. But can we be honest here? What starting quarterback goes for anything less than a second?
I'm not necessarily willing to
What I'm
allow
saying is
that
the
Fields is a
NFL.
starting quarterback, but I think the NFL spoke in a way that was very much hindered by an unreasonable asking price from Poles in the first place, and then Poles ultimately wanting to get Fields into the situation that Fields wanted to be in. I don't think 5th round is fair, and I also don't blame Poles for doing right by Justin.
Kevin, this is where I go back to again and I say, I think you are potentially assuming things that we can't have information on. So I don't know. Now, I would agree that I highly doubt his value is a sixth. His value is probably a third or a fourth. But that said, that tells you everything you need to know, right? Even it dropping to a six tells you the NFL does not believe he is a starter in any way. There should be teams that already have, if he's an actual starter, there are teams that have shitty starters out there that would have said, I will pay more to upgrade at quarterback by having this guy.
I don't think he's a starter, but I also think
Sure, maybe,
I
yeah.
think he's one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the NFL. And maybe there's a difference there.
Where did I rank
Because
him?
I'd rather have him.
Yeah, but you know what I hate about that? No, hold on. You know what I hate about that comment of, I think he's one of the best 32 starters in the NFL. Sure, but once you get outside of 1920, you start to get to a point where teams don't give a shit. It's just replacement level play in there. It's ass. There's
I
no
agree.
point in paying for that.
That's why I different. That's why I literally said I don't think he's a starter, but I think he's probably one of the best 32 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but I also, as a team, I'm not going to send that much to get something that's I'm going to want to replace very soon. That is not really good enough.
If the backup quarterback that I want on these current Chicago Bears were available, I might throw a 4th round pick for that right now.
Maybe, sure, yeah. I'm not saying I'm not saying a fourth was not his. I think it was hindered by the time in which we had made the decision that we are definitely going with Caleb and we're going to trade him. I will agree with you there. We should have put him on the block much earlier. I think that might have been an issue. Any other assumptions about price, asking price, etc.? I don't know. Nothing has come out that has really.
I know, but I think
that.
it's safe to assume, because just common sense, I think, does tell you that this is not what the Bears could have
Only
gotten.
thing we
They
know is
could have
that
done better.
the Bears wanted to wait till they met with Caleb and understood who Caleb was as a person, which they didn't. They knew from film they wanted Caleb. They knew from film early on they wanted Caleb, but they didn't know they wanted Caleb until we're officially on it with personality until closer to the combine, which would
Yes,
have
they
been a little
had
too
to
late.
make the final decision before they knew to move on from the
Yeah.
quarterback who could move the offense a little bit that they already had. Of course, that
Yes.
tracks fine. I'm not.
Yeah,
This is
and
not a
that wasn't
criticism. I
until
think I
that
think
wasn't until
the way
right
that
before the trade, so I don't know what to tell you. I think it might have. I don't know if it was asking
I
price
don't
or
know
if
that
it
you
was
even know
that.
what you're arguing with.
I'm
I'm
saying that
not saying
I can't say asking
Post
price.
fucked up.
I'm not saying that asking price was it. I don't know. That's all I'm saying. I think that that's too much of a leap to be like, okay, here, this is what I think.
And what I'm saying is that I think you do know that. Okay,
this is stupid.
Not that the
Let's
asking
move on.
price is unreasonable. I'm saying that you do know that the timing played a factor.
Oh yeah,
in
1000%.
getting way less of a pick. And I think
It was a
every
difference
team in the
between.
NFL, every GM in the NFL would tell you the Steelers got an absolute. I'm not going to say it.
I'm not. I
don't wanna
wouldn't
do
say
another
it's a
pun.
steal because I wouldn't call it a steal. Do you know why? Because you don't even know if he'll play. They got good value. They got good value.
But a backup
potentially.
quarterback is worth something.
Yeah, they got good value. I wouldn't call it a steal because you don't even know if he'll play, and it's not a steal until he actually does stuff for you. Good value. Good value.
You're being a little loud
And
about
remember,
it, but
it's
I
a
don't want to
6 that can turn into a 4th if he plays enough, right? So at that point, it's not a steal because we said his value's probably a 4th or 3rd at most. And so if he plays, at that point, we get our value back.
I wish him the best. I think Poles may or may not have mismanaged it, but I'm not upset by what happened. I mean, we were dreaming on a much better draft pick, and it's understandable why the draft pick wasn't quite as good as what some people were dreaming on. But this was not even close to what we thought we would get in the worst case scenario. But it's understandable how it got to that point. And as a fan of Justin the person, it's fine. I'm glad he has a chance to only have to compete with washed up Russell Wilson.
I will say that the more I continue to do analysis on Fields and his play and what happened, et cetera, as I had to fight back against the Fields cult, the more I understood why it was what it was. And so when I saw the trade go through, it affirmed all of the work I had done previously that said this man is not a starting quarterback and is hindering our offense significantly more than people want to accept because of the flashy plays that he makes. Those flashy plays do not make up for a significant chunk of the bad that occurs when he is throwing the ball 80% of the time on dropbacks and is giving you 10% less attempts per dropback than any other quarterback in the league because
Adam.
he does not see the field at all.
Adam, I agree with
Yeah.
you, but on this podcast, there is a hard limit to the stern tone we're going to take when we're criticizing Justin Fields.
Fine, let's move on. Caleb Williams, #1 pick.
Hey!
How do you feel about that?
No doubt Hall of Famer, motherfucker. On to number 9, Roma Dunze.
No doubt Hall of
No,
Famer,
I don't.
motherfucker.
Here's the thing about Caleb. I think we've talked about it enough already.
You don't need to get there.
We'll
I have
talk
one
about it
question.
enough in the future. We could talk about it a little bit, but I don't want to spend too much time on Caleb Williams
I
personally.
have one question for you. Let's talk about the other quarterbacks in the draft. Is there any other quarterback that you would have been okay with taking? I know the answer to this. It's the same answer as mine.
It's nuanced because I had a different quarterback one for a while, and then I did ultimately land on Caleb.
And let me be clear. I'm saying if Caleb wasn't in this draft,
Caleb was not there.
yes,
I would have only been okay with one quarterback, and I would have been ecstatic with one quarterback, and it is Drake May. We agree.
Yep. Now I'm not saying
Drake
that
May
we would
in almost any other year. In almost any other year, Drake May is a no doubt #1 overall pick. However, somehow he was the 3rd quarterback taken in this draft because reasons.
I want to see what happens with Jaden Daniels because I'm not going to sit here and say I sent you my quarterback tiers and it was Drake May and Caleb Williams both fell under uncertain but optimistic because until I see it I can't say shit. And I put Jaden Daniels in uncertain neutral instead of uncertain pessimistic, even though my pre-draft would have told you I'm pessimistic, specifically because there are so many people who think he has the potential to be really good. And I think Solak. I'm going to go back to Solak again. We just saw it with Fields. He plays very similar to Fields. Does not throw. He does not attack the middle. He will take a lot of sacks. He does not attack the middle, and he will throw go balls, which is very much more reliant. And Sko talks about this too.
So why then did the entire NFL? Why then did the entire NFL, after liking Fields during the draft process, let alone after seeing his career, why did they seem to collectively like Jaden Daniels? That is an interesting question that I hadn't totally considered.
And I can't figure that out, which is why I'm going to sit here and that's why I put him on neutral because I'm like the whole NFL passed up on Fields fell to 11, right? And now they're saying he's worth
what is the difference? Because I don't see it.
Yeah, why is skinny Justin Fields worth the second
and
overall pick?
Old skinny Justin Fields.
Yes. Because what is he, like 24? He was in college. He was at Arizona State when Brandon Ayuk was at Arizona State. Let's remember that. Brandon Ayuk, who is on his 4th year in the NFL, was playing with Jaden Daniels at ASU. So I don't get, and that's why I was not very high on him. I would have rather have taken, like, if I was the commies, I would have taken Drake May.
And I don't want to give Joe A, the potentially neo-Nazi quarterback evaluator on Twitter, any credit, but I will say when I rewatched his board work that Joe A criticized, I didn't come away thinking it was bad board work, but I came away thinking that Jaden Daniels thinks that the NFL is as simple as it's going to be in college because his favorite concept is a fade against cover 1. But and this is a little more nebulous. This is a little bit. Shush.
I hate
this
that
is
you're
a little bit.
He was perfectly fine.
Adam.
I have a whole tweet about how he was perfectly fine. Go on. Do your thing.
I'm gonna
shut up now. I'm gonna shut up now.
Seem annoyed?
Oh, I'm annoyed that you brought this up.
The fact that it's his favorite concept, he was not wrong. He was correct.
That was fine.
You do throw the fade against cover 1 unless somehow that safety has fucking ESP. But I don't like,
especially when there's a dig.
That was his favorite concept, and that it says to me that
favorite concept. Does he say it's his favorite concept?
I think they had him draw. They had him draw his favorite concept. I believe.
I can't remember. I thought they had.
They did, draw and then Dable renames the receivers, gives them different letters, and makes them recall it. But he drew the concept. It was his concept.
Mm-hmm.
And what he drew was just the automatic touchdown play at LSU. Is my point. That's my only point. Is that in my mind, it's like, okay, so you just intend to win the same exact way you won in college, and that's not going to happen because you're not going to get that look against cover one that often, Jaden. That's not going to happen. And when you do, it's not necessarily going to be Malik Neighbors fucking blowing past the slot corner and have a 10 yards of separation by the time you get him the ball.
You know what though?
That's all I mean. His board work was not wrong. It was it implied some things to me that I didn't love, I guess.
If he plays the Packers, maybe he'll get a lot of cover one. Considering their DC that they just hired ran cover one at the highest clip in college football by 10% higher than any other team. Maybe even more. But no, yeah, you're right. It's a dime coverage. And so I'm put it on. I fucking dare you, put it on. But yeah, no, I mean, I understand what you're saying there, sure. But they asked him about against cover one. It wasn't them asking him, hey, show us your favorite cover. It was show us your favorite. If it was show us your favorite play, and then later, what do you throw to against cover one? It's not like he knew that it was only against cover one itself.
Oh.
And yes, he was right. You throw the slot fade. I don't care what Joey says. You throw the slot fade there, especially because the safety is looking at that dig and is going to attack that dig the moment that it turns in.
The only reason I bring Joey up is that it brought it back to my attention, and I hadn't seen the thing yet. So when I saw it, I was looking for the entire context. And what I recall thinking is just, huh?
I thought you blocked him. So I'm a little confused.
You sent it to me.
Oh, did I? Okay.
You constantly send me this stuff.
I know. It's because I don't know. Anyway, let's move on.
Recently, you sent me a tweet, and I said, "Oh, this guy blocked me. I don't want to see it anyway." So you took a screenshot twice and sent me 2 screenshots of it. And I didn't say it to you, but I thought, "Huh, what part of I don't want to see it did he not understand?"
I don't remember you saying I don't want to see it, but yeah, okay.
It was Gabriel.
Oh, it was Greg Gabe. Yeah, that's because he's so stupid.
Or no, it actually wasn't Gabriel. It was that was a different thing.
No, it was Greg Gabe. It was Greg Gabe wanting to do he was doing a podcast with.
See, that subject matter was not that big of a deal because I ultimately did figure it out. It was something else. It was
I don't know.
I'm not gonna remember it. It was something where I said, "Don't send it to me. I have it blocked."
I laughed at that shit. That was funny as hell. Let's come back. Let's come back to reality. We've been bullshitting for about 15 minutes.
I'm just comfortable enough saying, and this is such a small part of it, but I am comfortable saying, and I don't care if I'm proven wrong on it, but like I'm sticking by it. There's nothing in Jaden Daniels that indicates a good quarterback to me. So I'm absolutely pessimistic.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I also, you know how much I didn't like Michael Penix.
I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn. I'm going to say that I'm willing to learn. I don't mind making some statement and showing my ass on it, but I don't think I'm wrong on this. I think he's bad.
I want to quickly go through my thoughts on the other quarterbacks, and then let's move on to Rome's move. So I like Caleb, obviously a ton. Big fan, big fan of the fact that we went for him and didn't overthink shit. He was clearly the best quarterback in this class. I high hopes for Drake May. I'm really hoping that the Patriots don't ruin him by putting him behind an offensive line that is absolutely pathetic with absolutely pathetic weapons, which will lead to bad habits for a guy who's very young. But we'll see. I'm hopeful. They won't fuck it up and they'll keep Teddy Two Gloves. It's Brissett, not. Yeah. So who is it? Who's their quarterback right now?
You're right.
Brissett, not Bridgewater. I'm hoping that Brissett ends up playing most of the season. I think he gives you a good floor at quarterback anyway, and you allow Drake May to avoid playing with trash support, where a veteran can kind of handle that trash support, kind of say akin to Andy Dalton.
The Patriots were 1 game away from winning or from making the playoffs in my Sim Madden league.
Their defense is fantastic.
So there's that.
Their defense is fantastic. Their offense lacks a lot of support.
And honestly, I think I'm giving my rookie of the year vote to Drake in that league.
Moving on, So we've touched on Jay Daniels. We've touched on
Penix, insane draft pick, but as a quarterback,
here's my issue with Penix because I know a lot of people like Penix a ton. Good luck getting him to throw in a muddy pocket. Guess what you get a lot of in the NFL? Muddy pockets. He's not able to move around pressure. He showed it against Texas, shockingly against Texas. But then when he saw it again against Michigan, and if you watched him all season long, he has issues with that. He showed he has issues with that again against Michigan. Don't know where the Texas game came from. Your thoughts?
I mean,
you don't have to add any if you don't have any additional.
I don't think there's a quarterback that intrigues me more than Penix out of the second half of guys.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree there.
The way he attacks the field,
Wait, you don't like JJ?
I really am focused on the way that somebody attacks the field. I love that he pushes the ball. I love the historically good pressure to sack ratio, and a lot of it's getting rid of the ball. But then when you add on top of that 40 time that shows that he did have the sneaky athleticism all along, it's like I can see it working out. Like I like him better than Jaden.
I actually might agree with you that I would rather take the throw. Depends on how late I'm making the pick. If I'm making the pick that early, I'm going to try to take the high upside on Jaden and hope I can teach him. If I'm making the pick late and they're both there, right, like at 10, at 8,
I'm not sure that Penix's upside is that low, man.
He might have some deck. He might have Dak Prescott in it.
Even where you go, even where you go, I don't know where that came from against Texas. His ability to create a little bit. You know who we literally said that about on the last episode.
There's a massive difference between him.
It doesn't
and CJ
matter.
Stroud.
It's still
no, it's not, because the difference is I saw Penix need to create and be completely unable to. You never saw the need to create from CJ Stroud until that game. And then he showed it. You didn't have a whole bunch of examples of I can't fucking do it, and then you can. It was I didn't have to, I never did, and I could. With Penix, it's I can't fucking do it. I can't fucking do it. I can't fucking do it. I can't effing do it. I gotta stop swearing because eventually it'll screw us. I can't effing do it. 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 I can't effing do it.
Trying to correct yourself when you say it.
No. Hey, I can do it, and then I can't do it. There's a difference between I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to do it. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. I did it. Versus
Adam,
I can't. I can't. Difference.
I'd argue this is a good rule. This is a good rule for life. In every two things, there's going to be a difference that you could point out. It doesn't really matter. Like obviously, there's a difference.
But that is a massive difference. That is not the same. That is not the same.
But what is the same? What is the same is that in a very important game, they started doing it.
Except on the next important game, he again showed us I can't do it.
And the same thing probably would have happened to Stroud against
we don't know that because he never had to show it. The one time he had to show it, he did it. That's what I'm saying. There's a difference between an unknown. There's a difference between an unknown that he didn't have to
unknowns. There's no unknowns.
Yes.
What is that from?
Leave it at that. Just don't equivocate it. That's all I'm going to say. They're not the same. That is very misleading to say. Let's bring it back.
I don't think it's misleading. I'm not saying that he's Stroud. I'm saying that it's a similar dynamic where you did see it. It doesn't matter whether you needed to see it.
If I see a guy
that I think Penix is
because I saw Penix try. I saw Penix try to make and create and work through muddy pockets and fail and fail and fail. I never ever saw CJ Stroud have to until the Georgia game, and he proved that he could. There is a difference if I see a guy fail again.
I know for a fact that you watched the Stroud Michigan game.
That was one attempt. That was one time. It was the first time.
Neither of us is watching every Ohio State Stroud game and every Washington Penix game.
I've watched enough. I've watched enough of both. I promise you.
And
I have.
I'm not saying you're wrong. There is a similarity there. There's a huge chasm in almost everything else.
Anyway, pulling it back. Yes, I would agree that potentially I might want to look at Penix over Jaden Daniels because I see a lot more arm talent. I see a ton more arm talent. I see a ton more nuance as a quarterback. I just worry that in muddy pockets, a lot of that goes to shit. Most of the time, it goes to shit every time you see it,
My only issue is
and you need to be able to play through
in
muddy
muddy
pockets.
pockets. He's kind of a throwaway king, and that's
It's
not
not
as
even just
easy in the
throwaway
NFL.
king. Even when he tries to make a throw, he loses accuracy.
Oh,
It
for sure,
becomes
yeah.
much more sporadic. It's not the same. But let's pull back. We've got 2 more quarterbacks to go through.
I'm
Can we
saying
just both?
I'm intrigued by him. We
Yeah.
don't have to
Can
talk
we
about
just?
Bo Nix. What the fuck? We're
Yeah,
not
it's
talking about
about to
Bo
say.
Nix
Can we
here.
just both laugh at Bo Nix? JJ McCarthy.
If he's
Did you
good, it's
know
only
that
because
he
Sean
wasn't calling
Payton. It's
protections? Did you know he wasn't calling protections? Because the way that Jim Harbaugh talks about him, you would think he was in command of the total fucking offense. Did you know he did not call protections or did not really change anything at the line? Because I just found that out.
it's honestly not something I really think about. Like when I hear that they do it, I'm like, okay, good.
It's a good
When I
plus.
don't hear
It's not something
anything, I
that I'm
don't
not
look
worried.
into it. I don't look into it.
But the
But yeah, it
only
was
thing the
specifically
man
pointed out that
had on
didn't.
his
Yeah,
side was being
we're
cerebral. Like what? What
yeah.
else? Like what else did he have as a bonus? Oh, he's clutch on third down. Everything about his scouting profile was, oh, this is like the normal racist bullshit white quarterback. Let's give him all the like leadership qualities and stuff like that because he's white. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. You're not ever gonna find me trying to excuse the classic, oh, this guy's white and therefore he's this, and this guy's black and therefore he's
Yeah.
this. But I think the other side of it is he's lost one game in his entire life, basically.
Yeah, sure. I can't really speak much about his high school career. In his college career, he wasn't very good his first year with Michigan. He was okay. I mean, he showed some flashes. His second year, so much of that was because he was protected by scheme. And by scheme, what I mean is they ran the ball so much that on those money downs that people love to bring up and how clutch he was, you would see a heavy loaded box and wide receivers running wide open on digs and shit like that. That it was just easy money shit. Like you watch the games and actually pay attention. Like look at the Bama game. That Bama game, they finally said, you know what? Let's see if we can like make this a showcase game for our boy JJ McCarthy because Jim Harbaugh has a huge boner for him. And guess what starts happening? They get away from the running game. They start to pass a lot more, and he looks like absolute ass. Because
I do think that was maybe a little bit more informed, a little less informed by Harbaugh being crazy and more informed by you pass against certain looks and
yeah, sure.
you run against other looks.
I'm being a dick. I'm being a dick. I know that. I'm being facetious. I can't say that word right now, but
Facetious, you got it right.
for sure. Um, but you know what I mean. And you anytime they've
Yeah.
had to actually rely on his arm, it's not that great. And if you look at it, the times they've relied on his arm have been against either cupcakes or they played like shit.
Yeah. And also the NFL, it's weird to say about a guy who ultimately does go 11th in the draft, which is good.
He was the
The
fifth
NFL,
quarterback taken off the board.
right? So the NFL ultimately did kind of let you know that a lot of the hype
It was
was
bullshit.
little bit of bullshit, but still
And
ultimately he was the 11th pick.
I don't understand where
I
that hype comes from because it does raise my blood pressure throughout the draft process because I'm sitting there being told that I'm stupid. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting told that I'm stupid for not seeing this. Like you draft analysts who don't see JJ McCarthy, you're just dumb. And it's like, well, the NFL just told me that I was right. He wasn't worth the top 10 pick. He was the fit. Like I had him behind Penix in my mind. I didn't
me too.
on
Yeah.
like my mocks because everyone was telling me he's going to go early, so I have to believe it on my mock. But as like a quarterback, I have him behind Penix. I have him behind Jaden Daniels because I don't see it. I don't see shit. And then the NFL tells me that I'm right, but I get told that I'm the stupid one, and that's frustrating.
I'm a little more likely, and I'm a little more likely to. I did not ultimately rank McCarthy versus Daniels, for example, but the argument for McCarthy, besides the intangibles and the winning and you know the the weird racy stuff, is the statistical indicators that we look for, basically a bizarro Justin Fields. All the things that Justin Fields was bad at, statistically, JJ McCarthy was good at.
But all the things
Throw
that
over the middle.
Justin Fields was good at, well, except for maybe he could create a bit. He was good on the run. He was
He,
like he
he
can't throw
threw
left.
JJ McCarthy.
He can't
threw
throw
over the middle.
outside.
Yeah, because we agree. The eyeball test, absolutely, I'm with you. But he threw over the middle. His pressure to sack ratio
Behind
is
his digs,
extremely
yeah.
good. His big time throw to turnover worthy play ratio is extremely good. All of these indicators that usually, the ones that certainly weed out the bad quarterbacks, if not say who the good quarterbacks are going to be, are all very, very good.
Right.
It's just those are devoid of context. They are devoid of eyeball test that says, man, this guy really cannot throw over here. And boy, this guy couldn't even complete a pass at the combine in a perfect environment. Like,
He was throwing
but
behind his receivers
I'm
constantly on the digs in the middle of the field where they would have to go and make spectacular catches. You're
I
also devoid of context is a very good point because again, you go back to holy crap, the box is loaded. He's getting a lot of one-on-one looks. This is very easy for him. His guys are running wide open. They only throw the ball 15 times a game. So why the hell would I not load the box on them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, no matter
right.
what the situation is.
But there are statistical indicators, there are anecdotal indicators that at the very least, I find him to be an interesting test case.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I thought his film was garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Film alone, 6th round pick, in my opinion. But I have to be conscious of the fact that I'm very stupid. And I have to at least allow for the fact that maybe what I'm seeing with my eyes is unreliable. It's the entire point of statistical analysis in sports. And maybe what I'm seeing with my eyes is wrong, and all these statistical indicators are correct. And if they are correct, that is going to be a lesson that I learn going forward. And if I was right and that he is garbage, then I'll say, okay, I can still rely on my eyes. But I'm not willing to say that he's definitely going to suck.
I think going to the Vikings is a perfect situation for him because I see him very much as a Brock Purdy type. He'll YOLO ball that shit. He'll throw it over the middle. He'll do what he's basically being told, et cetera, et cetera. Guys will get open. Guys will get schemed open. They're going to run. They're going to rely heavily on the run. He is going to a perfect situation for him to do well. And I said that at the time before the draft. If he goes to the Vikings, that is a situation, and probably where he's going to go. That is a situation in which I think he can succeed at. Any other situations, most situations in which he could find himself at, I highly doubt he'll be good at. I hate that I have to give myself that cop out, but that's also where I say I don't think if he does well, I'm not going to sit there and say that I was wrong because I was also right about the idea that this is a situation in which I think he can do well in. He doesn't need to read the defense. He knows the guy is going to be running right open. He is enough of a he's got enough balls that he'll just throw it over the middle blindly if he needs to, right? And he's got a little bit of Purdy and less Garoppolo, in which he can extend plays like Purdy does when he needs to, and maybe find somebody open. And the Vikings
Better. I
have
mean,
weapons, have the
better
weapons that
theoretically.
potentially.
He's actually athletic.
Yes, and then the Vikings actually have weapons that can win when they need to. I mean, Justin Jefferson's an absolute stud, so he can rely on his guys just like he did in Michigan. So it's hard. I look at it. I know there were some Bears fans that wanted the Illinois native to come back home, and I just not over Caleb,
silly.
not over Drake, not over
Silly.
quite a few quarterbacks, and I think we saw that play out. Let's move on to Rome. We've spent a good more time than I wanted to on those quarterbacks.
Well, you made us do it, and now that you did it, I just got to say I don't want anybody ever clipping the Bo Nix thing because it comes back to haunt us. I just hate the way he attacks the field. I hate the way he attacks the field. He is low to high instead of high to low, and I do not like that. I don't like his age. I don't like over the middle, his inability to throw over the middle. He's not particularly talented. He was a breakout in, to be fair, I guess his senior year, and then a real breakout in his super senior year. I don't want any part of that. Those are all bad indicators to me. It doesn't look amazing to me on film. And even if it did, he's way older than everybody else. If it works out, it's because Sean Payton has rediscovered his magic. I just don't want to be clipped us laughing at it, but that was an awful fucking pick.
Bo Nix. Bo Nix. I don't give a shit.
If we're famous one day and somebody clips that, I want context. I want a little bit of context.
Bo Nix. Ah, what a bitch! Clip it.
When
I don't
they're
care.
doing the forensics on, because they're still looking into this shooter on Saturday, so they might look at this video, and that's how we become famous. And they see that we said about Bo Nix, and I don't want.
Here, let me give you guys some more fuel. Broncos are when I did my playoff bracket prediction, and my whole season prediction on playoff predictor, not Madden. Broncos were last in the league. Clip it.
Very likely
They
the same will be true. I find it hard to believe the same will not be true for me.
Yeah. So yeah, clip that. I don't care. Does Sean Payton really move the sticks for me? I didn't think he moved the sticks when people were talking about him with. Because how often is the
No,
Hall of Fame quarterback really the big deal? And let's be
I,
honest here, the fucking Saints went 8-8. How many seasons in a row with Drew Brees? Sorry. Moving forward, Romo
I'm
Dunze.
covering my ass. I'm covering my ass because, as I just said, I'm stupid as shit. I could be wrong about stuff. I don't think I'm wrong about this one either.
I'm a Gene ass. So Romo Dunze.
Odunze.
Odunze.
I say Odunze. When I
Romo
don't
Odunze.
hear a name enough, I pronounce it the way I want to, and eventually I fix it.
Okay, Odunze.
And boy, I plan to hear his name a lot in the end zone.
Odunze. Have you heard enough? Rome
Is that a
Odunze.
Rome? Is that a Rome jersey you're wearing right now? Oh, that ass.
You guys, did you see my shorts?
No.
Oh, thank God.
No.
I am definitely not in pants.
Sounds like you're a fan.
Got Sophia and I both have our Odunze jerseys. This is a Rome for anyone just listening. This is a Rome jersey. I just turned around and showed off the name on the back. DH Gate, I love you guys for these $30 jerseys because now I've got a bunch. I got my Justin Herbert one hanging in the back. You can't see it because it's filtered out. And yeah, so I started off the draft season, and by draft season I mean December. Not a big fan of Rome for some reason. And then I watched more, and then I got told more. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Because like at that time, I'm like, I'd rather trade back from 9 than take Rome, and then I could take two swings at wide receiver.
I think your thing, if I recall, is just not necessarily an Odunze issue, more so just a disbelief that there are actually 3 number 1 caliber receivers in one draft.
That was my issue. And so I was trying to play the numbers. And then the more I heard, the more I watched, the more I thought, God, I'm happy to have him on the team, man. This is like, I remember, I think, so that was December. I think around March or late February, I was on, no, you take that man. If he's not there, then you move back. If he's not there, if it's we're looking defense or anything else, I want to trade back. I don't care. I don't think any of those guys, lo and behold, the NFL draft, I think proved that defensively, there weren't a lot of great picks until later in the first round because no one came off the board till later in the first round. So in my mind, I'm like, you trade back, you get in position to pick up one of the DNs or one of the DTs, and then you go from there. At that point, I finally was like, Rome is the last person that I would take at 9, and then but I want him. I don't care to trade back. If he's there, I want him. You take him no matter what, etc. So I had a complete flip within like 3 months. And I'm almost upset at myself for even having tweets out there that I'm not going to delete. I don't delete my shit, like, because I have proof later that I changed my mind. I have tweets out there that were like, no, you trade back and you get 2 guys instead. I would rather go back and get Lad McConkey and what's it called? I'm blanking on my boy from Michigan.
Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson. He went to the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So happy I switched that up because I do like him a lot. I was shocked that there are 3 receivers that were worth a pick. That just doesn't happen often. A top 10 pick. It rarely happens. We haven't really had many receivers worth a top 10 pick, I think, in the last few drafts. I mean, Waddle and Devonta Smith, but
and whoever was actually the first receiver in that draft.
Why am I blanking on it?
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase, yep. That
hell,
draft.
Garrett Wilson, Chris
Garrett Wilson
Olave.
was probably worth it. That was a damn good.
It was
receiver
really
draft.
it was really the previous draft that
Didn't have it.
yeah.
The JSN.
I'll say I on the other hand never needed any convincing. The reason I knew Adam's reasoning was that he told me, and I argued with him that Odunze was very good. So I'm with him. I even went so far as to say that Rome Odunze, amongst the 3 Washington receivers, even though he was the least vertical of them, would run the best 40 time, and I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like him to. I think you've rejected this comparison. It is the most common comparison that I think the general media gives him, but yeah, for me it's Devontae Adams. I think he's got that in him.
Potentially. I mean, I'm not going to do a comp. I think I've heard a couple other really good comps. That one's one that I've heard a few times. I don't ever want to compare any guy to a future Hall of Famer. Right? And I keep using the term future Hall of Famer on wide receivers. There's a backlog of them.
Future Hall of Fame without knowing necessarily whether I think you're kind of safe with Adams.
Yeah.
He might need 1 or 2 more years.
Yeah, I think Keenan Allen.
I don't think Keenan's got it. I don't think he's there.
He's at least Hall of Fame. Okay, fine. I don't like to use even Hall of very good guys to comp to. I want to use more realistic projections, right?
But if you can't try to compare it to that type of player, then what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
Right, and I think the comp works. I don't know. I love the move. I don't think there's much we need to talk about. I think all Bears fans are on board with this. Like,
Yeah.
You know what? I love the personality. I love the person too, and I think that plays in a lot to it. The combine question still sits with me. The if you had to fly a plane and land it in an emergency, would you be able to? No, absolutely not. All souls have perished. Whatever the full answer was, will sit with me, and I think that is the funniest thing. He's a great leader. I find it so. Let me bring it back. We're watching Hard Knocks Giants edition off season. I don't know how many people caught this, but the question about how often does a choir boy become elite at that position? They're talking about wide receiver, and they're talking
extremely
about
often. Extremely often is the answer to that. Yes.
Yeah, I was shocked. I'm like, okay, guys, do we not want to talk about Devontae Adams? Very nice guy, right? I don't know if I'd put him in choir boy, but up there.
Larry Fitzgerald is a
Larry
bona fide
Fitzgerald
choir boy.
is a bona fide choir boy and a Hall of Famer.
If he wasn't literally a choir boy, I'd be a little surprised.
Yeah. But also a Hall of Famer. I think we had come up with a few when I had sent that to you. I'm like, there's a lot of examples out there. DJ Moore up there on being good guy, right?
All you have to do is think of receivers, and they're most likely the ones that you're most aware of. You know, it's easier to think of the ones that aren't because they're the more famous ones because of their personality.
They're loud. Obviously, Antonio Brown.
Man, I was gonna say something silly, and I'm gonna back off it. But I'd go so far as to say that Randy Moss is.
No, that's a diva.
But no,
he mooned a crowd, bro. Like you can't. That's not no. Sorry.
I'm actually I'm thinking of some sideline antics that all right, not Randy Moss, but Hines Ward, choir
boy. Like I'm sorry,
Cooper Kupp, choir boy.
And
Andre Johnson, a little dog in him on the field, but basically a choir boy.
And so, like, I saw that. I'm like, you don't need diva at wide receiver. I thought that was so stupid. I'm like, all right, Joe Shane. I've liked what I've seen from Joe Shane, and I don't think that came from him directly. I think that was from one of his staff members, right? Just a stupid, dumb comment. I understand wanting a diva, but how often do divas not work out?
Often.
I don't know.
The Giants, right. the Giants' previous diva was Kadarius Toney, so
so
the Giants should know.
Yeah. Leave it at that. I thought that was stupid. I want to bring that up since we're bringing up Rome.
What I think that was, just by the way, and I said it to you, is I just think the Giants, like most of us, were having a little bit of a difficult time differentiating between Neighbors and Odunze, and they just decided to say a goddamn thing. Like, that's all it is. They just we got to think of some reason to differentiate them. My reason is that I think Neighbors is slightly better at football than Odunze, but I'm not like gonna dig my heels in on that. It's just I'm glad that I got the one that was left.
You and I
Thrilled, absolutely
disagree.
thrilled.
Yeah, I'm glad we got the one that was left. I'm happy with that. You and I disagree. I don't know where I put Neighbors over Dunes. I think I put them at the same. Obviously, MHJ purple chip, right? And then you get to the blue chips.
Well, if you get to a point and nobody's trading down with you, and both guys are on the board, and you're going to take one, you got to take one. And
Yeah,
I would have taken Neighbors. I will admit to that.
I
But
think the
that is
decision would
absolutely
be
that is no shit on Odunze. I think both of
yeah,
them should have gone higher. I think Neighbors should have gone higher than 6. I think Odunze should have gone higher than 6 and obviously 9.
yeah.
Just both
Thank
incredible receiver
Falcons.
prospects.
Falcons, thank you for not trading out. Because you were like, remember, I had worked on that exercise. I think back in March or February, I had said, "Oh my God, this was before everyone else said that there was a chance." I think, but when everyone was projecting the 3 to go, I'm like, "There's a chance he falls to us." And I remember sending you like, if we're seeing tackle at Chargers, potentially tackle at Giants, right? Which didn't play out, right? Because Giants ended up taking Neighbors. Because I thought Neighbors would go earlier, but I was like, you got these combinations of things, he might fall. And this was before I think people were actually saying that. And then we started getting closer. I'm like, no, I don't think I'm right. I don't think anybody else is right. I started double questioning it because I'm like, the Falcons are going to trade out. That just makes more sense. So, Atlanta Falcons, Ryan Pace, part of the Falcon staff. Thank you. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for
Man,
taking Michael Penix.
we got to do an episode one of these days where we just talk about pace.
I
I think
we
that'd be a
should
lot. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
would have a field day. Let's move forward. I think we're running long. I want to hit up on our other rookies.
Yeah,
So with our third pick,
Kyron. Jesus, it's one of the few guys that I didn't school myself on how to say his name. Kyron Mega DJ was our next pick at number 75 overall, I believe.
I don't know how to say his name either, so I'm just gonna say Kyron.
So when there's a long name like that, I do make the effort. So unlike my thing where I purposely mispronounce things, when there's a confusing name like that, I'll make the effort to like sit down and like
because you
figure out
want
how
to
to say
prove
the
that you
name.
can say it. Yep.
I haven't done it, but it's Kyron Mega DJ. This was the range that Mox had him in. It wasn't some crazy reach or anything like that. I will say, if you are trying to get a starting offensive tackle, you're playing very much against probability doing so in the 3rd round. In this case,
Tackles are a little bit easier than say like an edge rusher, right? You
it's
don't want
a
to take an
step
edge
up.
rusher
An edge
late.
rusher is almost death,
He's almost
but
death. Yeah.
a tackle
Tackle
is low probability too.
it's low probability, but it's not terrible. In even like day 3, you see some decent tackles come off day 3. It's not absolute hell. I can get
No,
it.
but it's not great. So when we go back to the Brisker Gordon draft, we needed a tackle, and ultimately ended up with Braxton Jones, and it worked out fine. But we were both pretty against going tackle in round 2 because it just wasn't a high value proposition.
Yeah. Well,
Because
because in comparison to
what
what
we
else you
needed
can
was
get,
that sure, but we also needed that guy to start. And I would also say, in comparison to what else you can get in the 3rd round, is it's not as pronounced as it is in the 2nd round, but it's still a top 100 pick. You could have gotten a more sure thing than Kyron.
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the pick. I know there are a lot of people. Dude, let's go back to Jay. Just another year, Bears. Oh my god, I hate that fucking handle. Has overhyped the shit out of everyone, but specifically Kyron. Bah, 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 bah.
Omega DJ.
A mega DJ. Um, and
I
it's
should remember
frustrating.
this. A mega
He's also
DJ, not just a small DJ, a mega
a
DJ.
mega DJ. That's why I laugh every time you say his name, because if that's actually how you pronounce it, it's super easy. The one thing that I will say with him is he's starting on the non-football injury list as well. He has that, I believe, was it a calf something? I believe it's a calf. He has a calf injury that he had surgery on that is lingering into preseason, or sorry, the offseason. Was lingered through OTAs and now is lingering into training camp. He will probably not be a big deal for a couple years. I'm hoping he can be a swing potentially, and then we could move off. And
It's Kyron a mega G.
a mega G. Okay, That's what I thought.
That
I didn't think it was
sucks.
DJ because I was like, a mega DJ does not sound right, but we'll continue. That's
That
kind of why I laughed when you said it the first
stinks.
time. I was like, is that right? There's no way.
I'm too depressed to talk about the rest of this stuff. I want it to be a mega DJ.
Sucks, man. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry, sport.
I'll just say this: when we already have our 2 starting tackles in place, but we're not positive that. I guess technically we're not positive that either one of them is going to work out, and that also a mega G could potentially move inside. He's got that in his profile that he could possibly move inside. I think all of that stuff together, just a blanket offensive lineman that could help if we need to backfill any positions, is a perfectly reasonable 3rd-round pick. It's not who I wanted. I forget who I wanted,
I don't
but it was
remember there
reasonable.
being much on the board that I
It made
wanted.
sense. And also, if we gotten further into the draft, I certainly wouldn't want. I certainly would not have wanted a tackle. Yeah, I'm truly the mindset of like, if you want to starter at offensive tackle, do it in the 1st round. If you want to swing tackle, 3rd round works. So I'm good with that. Otherwise, yeah, throw a bunch of stuff against the wall like Poles did in his first draft, and hope you hit on one, which he did. So I was good with that.
I'm fine with it. I don't remember there being much on the board. This is where we get to the draft. So let me be clear here. This draft was not very deep.
Yeah,
Jim Nagy, right? Jim Nagy came out. He
yeah,
does the Senior Bowl. He had said months prior that this is going to be a very shallow draft. Don't expect much in day 3. That's why when we see the trade, say for Ryan Bates, Keenan Allen, we also have to add that context. And I actually forgot about this when we were talking about them.
it's good context. Yeah,
Yeah, those draft picks weren't going to be much, and I remember there not being much on the board even when we were picking Kyron that I was all that excited about. I didn't do a lot of work on the day 3 picks, day 3 prospects expected to go there because of all of this, and I think the NFL kind of made it. It was a very meh set, and mind you, 3rd round, obviously, end of day 2, mid day 2. I think with our pick, what were we 72nd? Even then you started to see when you started getting outside the top like 60, I want to say you started to see a massive decline in prospects in this draft. So I'm
yeah,
fine with it. I don't have any qualms with that context in mind, and me not remembering, I don't think there was much on the board that I cared for. So I was like, yeah, sure. Not an exciting pick. I think there were some wide receivers I would have liked, but at this point, like our wide receiver room is already set that I'm not that upset.
yeah. And also, there was the most interesting receivers kind of went early.
Yeah.
There was definitely some guys I can't remember offhand. Maybe I'll look it up while we're moving on to the next
Yeah.
guy, and I can think about it. But like, it made sense. And again, I think that was a position of need, and like he comes with upside.
Yep.
Like
It's a
he's not like some like, hate to stereotype, but some white dude who was playing right tackle who probably has to maybe move inside the guard that they're taking for the floor that you sometimes see go in the 3rd. This is an athletic, somewhat raw dude
out
who
of Yale who
in the
probably
same mode
didn't.
as Braxton.
Yep.
Same reasons that you could see upside of Braxton. It's not like he was had the perfect strength training and stuff like that. Like
A lot of
this is
times,
another shot on the type of guy that could work out.
a lot of time you get guys out of Alabama that are capped on what they have on their body. You get a guy out of Southern Utah or whatever the hell Braxton's from. I can't remember off the top of my head. That might be right. And
Yep.
Yale, and you're looking at them and saying, nope, we can change them. We can make them better. And I like that. I like the upside. I don't mind the pick. Let's move on to our next pick. You got the jersey? I see orange.
What's going on?
Put it on backwards. It's a nice jersey you got there. Who is that?
Oh,
Taylor? Taylor? Is that Tory Taylor? Our punter out of the that we got in the 4th round?
best offensive player on the Iowa Hawkeyes last year.
Hell yeah. Let's be real here. I don't think either of us really like the pick.
Awful pick.
Yeah. You don't draft a punter. I'm sorry. I know that there are people that are hyped about it that'll talk about it. I get it. man, you could do so much more. We need depth. We need depth at a lot of spots.
It honestly, again, I know you don't like it when I guess you just don't like it when I criticize polls, frankly. But
no, I'm with you on this, and I criticize polls too. I just think
I know,
but I know
that you don't like it when I get a little too deep on it. This pick suggested some potentially scary things about polls. Like this is 101. You do not take a punter in the 4th round. That's a little scary to do.
Yeah, but hey, at least we got the best punter out of the draft.
So that's the thing. So when there were some rumors that we were maybe looking at Bijan Robinson with the 9th pick last year, I don't think those are true, but there were definitely rumors out there.
Yep.
I said two things. I said, A, if they do it, I'll be extremely pissed. That'll be a horrible, horrible draft pick. I will never forgive polls. But B, it'll be a lot of fun to watch him. I'll like him a lot.
I think
like I can be upset by the use of management, but as a football fan, watch him on TV and it's like, God damn, look at Bijan move around.
All right, to be really clear though, before you continue, I think we've learned since polls and Flus both care about positional value when they make a comment like we won't draft a linebacker in the top whatever. So I don't think they would have taken Bijan. I just want to be clear there. But go on.
But it's drafting a punter in the 4th round somewhat
okay, but let's be honest
go
here.
Against that. It is only the 4th round.
Yes.
In a bad draft.
Yes.
Also,
that's the other thing too. We have to
29 years old. That's
he really?
Good. Yeah.
God damn, he's old.
Yeah.
It's another thing we got to bring that context that we brought up earlier. The end of the draft here was kind of shit, but
here's the thing.
You're gonna say something about liking watching him. I totally pulled you away from that.
Well, I'm not gonna necessarily enjoy watching him because that means our offense has failed. But I think we got the best punter in the NFL probably coming up pretty soon.
We'll see if that actually translates over to the NFL. Sometimes it doesn't, especially a kicker, but not punter as much. Punter sometimes mostly transfers over. Right when you draft,
punt, it's probably pretty good.
It's better than drafting a kicker. Let me say that because kickers typically do not translate over. A lot of it is so much environmental and mental. So
also, I'm no fan of former and almost certainly future President Donald Trump, and I know Adam's not based on his actions a week ago. But
future. Stop, dude. Do not. I know it's a joke, but come on. I'm gonna get raided is what's gonna end up happening. I'm gonna get fucking raided, and I don't need that.
Adam is not a part of the deep state. He proved that earlier by saying he is. We're fine.
Yes.
I know, but I do think it's very funny. There's a clip out there of Donald Trump trying to appeal to a crowd of raucous Iowans by talking about how big and strong and good their punter is, and how he's at the Bears. It's pretty funny.
That is actually hilarious. I don't think I've seen that clip.
Well, you didn't click a link I sent you.
Oh yeah, well then I'm an asshole. I don't click a lot of the links you send me.
The last pick we took, we traded our, I believe, one of two 2025 4th round picks for a 2024 5th round pick and selected edge Austin Booker out of Kansas.
Is that our original pick? Right, it's our original pick that we sent for. What did we trade with the Bills?
Yeah,
I think so.
We reacquired the pick that we got.
Yeah.
And that's where I go a little bit back to before when you were saying an argument I was making is stupid. And like, no, it's not, because it turns out we did want to use that.
Oh my God, we sent a future 4th instead of a 5th. Holy shit. Oh, maybe actually the Bills would have been fine with a future pick.
You get this, but it's you would agree if you weren't being contrarian that it is a slippery slope. Like you want to carefully manage every asset.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. When it comes to later round picks or future picks that are late like that, I don't care as much specifically because if you're doing a pick player swap, it's not as big of a deal. When you're doing multiple picks for a player, that I'm a little bit more upset.
But there's opportunity cost. It's not just like what could we get with the pick. Or what player could we draft with the pick? What else could we have gotten with the pick? Maybe next year
Potentially.
some guy you don't want to mismanage your
Yeah,
assets.
you want to be able to hoard. You want to be able to hoard those
money.
assets more than. Yes, I agree with you, but I don't see this as mismanagement, is what I'm saying.
I'm
You're
not seeing it
seeing
as major. I'm not seeing it as major mismanagement. I'm
I'm
seeing
not
it
seeing it
as
as mismanagement at
a
all.
little
I'm
bit of
seeing it
mismanagement.
as okay. That I think that's where we disagree. And yes, it's a slippery slope. It's just I don't see it at the same level as you see it.
Let me ask you this: if we had traded a future 4th round pick for Ryan Bates straight up, which we essentially did do, would that have changed your opinion at all about the trade?
No, it'd have
for
been
Ryan
more
Bates?
of it'd have been a third. I'd be fucking livid.
See, but so your stance on this kind of says to me that
That's what a backup
anything,
IOL. No,
any
my stand, no.
day
Pause.
three pick, any
Nope,
day 3 pick
nope,
could go
nope,
for anything.
nope. I see Bates as a perfectly viable swing IOL that can potentially start, and I
So
think
do I.
that
Yes.
at a on a very cheap multi-year contract, and that is worth a fourth, a future fourth, sorry, or a fifth, right? A future fourth or a fifth.
Understanding.
My position on any pick starts at the 6th round. A 6th or a 7th, I don't give a shit. As long as it's like a one
So
pick or 2 pick swap for a player. 4th and 5th,
this
I care a little bit about, but I think that's value for him, so I'm not that upset.
this year we were able to use a 4th round pick to get Keenan
Keenan
Allen.
Allen, yes, I understand that. I also think that's asinine of value. Like that's amazing value. I think it's asinine on the Chargers.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
I
saying.
understand
Opportunity
the
cost
opportunity
wise, you
cost.
don't.
I
It
get
is,
that.
and it becomes a slippery slope because on the next year, maybe you trade a future 4th for a third. Like when does it stop?
Right, I get it. You can get
I
an
don't.
Amari
I don't like
Cooper.
it.
You can get an
It's
Amari Cooper
not
for it. You can
correct.
get. I agree. You can get an Amari Cooper for it. You can get a this for that. I've seen those trades. I also think that it's very hard and rare to find those trades, and we got very lucky to get Keenan Allen.
Sure.
That's it.
I'm
So if
saying
we see something
you
now, we
want to.
go get it. It's
You
fine.
want to. You want the pick.
I understand what you're going at. I understand what you're going at. There is opportunity cost that is lost potentially in the
Now,
future for something better. I just
Austin
am not going
Booker.
to sit there and bitch about it.
All right, I'm not bitching. It's a
Now I am
podcast.
going to bitch about the fact that we traded the future 4th for a 5th for Austin Booker.
Right. So
So now we
I
got
want to.
Austin Booker for a 4th.
I was setting the table a little bit. So Austin Booker is an edge who was supposed to go much earlier. He's raw, but he was extremely productive in his basically only year of playing time at the collegiate level at Kansas, as I believe a redshirt sophomore. So he's pretty young. He's raw. And again, I'd seen mocks that had him in the 2nd round.
And to
I'm
be
saying
fair,
all this
had
to
he
tee
stayed
you
a
up.
year, people think that he would have gotten much earlier because he was that raw. In
If
my
you'd repeated
opinion,
it,
if that's the case, stay the fucking year. Don't come out of the draft. You just lost yourself a bunch of money. Just go out and get some nil, and maybe stay a year and become that guy.
Well,
Here's my issue
we're not here to advocate for the players. We're bootlickers. We're advocating for the
for the team. I hear you. So here's my issue with this pick. I hope again I'm wrong. I would rather be very fucking wrong and see this kid be a stud. You rarely find, rarely find quality edge play after the 2nd round. You just don't. We're talking about, I think.
You're almost as likely to find it undrafted.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, you're right. That's the thing is you really are, and that's very unlikely. I think it's like 10% chance. I can't remember. I've done this. I've had these tweets a few times. It's low. It's like maybe 10 to 20% chance you find a like tier 3 starter, right? Of the 8 tiers that we've talked about before, that bottom tier starter, either tier 1 or tier 3, it's like a 20% chance between the two. I think it's split completely. It's a waste of a pick, man. And let's be real here, Bears fans. We've gone through this. How many times have we hyped the Dom Robs and the
There's
Gibsons?
the other thing I was going to say. Austin Booker's
Like,
profile is very, very similar to Dominic Robinson's, which I was
right.
excited about at the time. I didn't have as much information on this type of stuff, but I was aware of it. But I was like,
Yeah.
well, damn, this dude, I understand why he fell because he's raw.
He's a convert. He's a raw
So it's like-
convert from wide receiver. Right? Austin Booker was a wide receiver as well. Am I wrong here? Was he? He's a position
Booker,
conversion. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if he was a conversion. He definitely was not a receiver. That would have stuck with me.
Okay.
Robinson was a receiver.
Robinson was a receiver conversion.
Before that, a quarterback.
Right.
So it made sense why he would have fell. And I was like, you know, again, I was fully aware there's no such thing as a steal in a draft. And if you don't know what that means, go back to any of our other podcasts. You know, Robinson made some sense. Like, I understood why he fell, and therefore I was excited to get that type of project. And for the same reason, Booker, like, I guess I understand why he fell. It makes now, it wasn't. It could go a little deeper than the entire NFL continuing deciding this guy sucks. You know, unlike some guys who fall, but not that much deeper.
He fell in a draft class. He fell to the 5th in a draft class that was not very stacked. It was incredibly late on the later rounds.
I'm more so defending the Robinson excitement than the Booker excitement.
Oh yeah,
it is the same type of.
And here's my thing. I hope I'm wrong. I hope all of the hype around him is correct, because there is a good bit of Bears hype that, like, this guy could actually work out. We got a steal. People talk about him like this. This is where he's supposed to be. He went in the 5th in a class that was not very deep on the 3rd round. So you're telling me that he already is lacking in any other, like, maybe this is a 7th round pick in other drafts. And if now here's my thing. Had we have had that pick without having to trade an asset for it, right? And yeah, sure, it's a pick swap for a pick. It's a pick for a pick. Well, it's an earlier round pick in a class that's potentially going to be deeper, we would hope, right? We don't know. We don't know yet. But that 4th round pick might have a lot more value in this upcoming draft class than the 5th round pick had in the draft class that didn't have enough depth to really need a 5th round pick, right? Would you agree? Does that logic stack?
I agree with everything except I weirdly don't think that Booker would have been a 7th round pick in a normal draft. I think he was going to be a 5th round pick no matter what, because of the type of prospect he is. But everything else tracks, yes.
Fine.
And
fair.
And the thing I just said is pure speculation.
Yeah, fair. But all the logic says that, okay, hey, if he was this in this class, then in a more loaded class, in a class that has more depth, right? He would potentially not. I do think this class had a lot of high end talent, right? We had depth at the high end. I'm talking about the day 3 pick. Yep, day 3 picks is what I'm talking about, because this class definitely had depth early in the up to pick 50. I want to say was deep. Then you had a massive drop off, and he's in a class that has a massive drop off and lack of depth for day 3 going in the 5th. That means that if there was actual depth, like in a normal class, I feel like he'd go later. But that's fine. I get that. You are trading a future earlier round, a 1 round earlier pick to now go up and get this guy, where that pick might have been more important used later. And that bothers me, and that's where I'm coming at. Had we had that pick already and we picked him, chalk, fine. I get it. Actually a good pick. Using an asset that's potentially more valuable in the future to go get him, a little frustrating. I'm maybe selling it more than it actually frustrates me. I'm not trying to say, like, it's not that big of a deal, but it's a big enough deal that I want to bitch about it a little bit and kind of push back on the hype. It's unwarranted, and we've seen it 3 times. This is the 3rd time we're going to be going through this. If it doesn't work out again, guys, we need to sit back and realize you don't get edge talent unless you trade for it or you draft it early. I'm sorry. There is no ways around it.
It's not a lesson anybody will ever learn, and it's honestly a little bit understandable. You want to get excited.
It's a premium position. It's a premium position for a reason. It means it's rare.
That said, you said if we
find it,
if we hadn't traded for the pick, you would have been okay with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Like, we know.
Who else are you going to pick? I mean, like, at that point, who else are you going to pick? That's my issue, right? It's the idea that we took something that's the opportunity cost. At that point, we're stuck with the pick. We need to make the pick the guy. The opportunity cost of trading that future 4th is my issue. Now I get into that opportunity cost argument that you just had. That's the issue. Is it weird that I prefer Ryan Bates? It's because Ryan Bates is a known quantity in my mind. That's the big thing. Ryan Bates is a known quantity. Oh, my shoulder hurts like a bitch as I reach out.
I mean, we're going back in time too much, but like in the 5th round, I'm at a point where I exclusively want to take a running back, a guard, a center, maybe a safety that we know could at the very least be a special teamer. Like
because the hit rate,
it's just not going to happen with an edge. And
Yeah.
if it does, and you hit the Max Crosby, great. But you're just not going to hit the Max Crosby. It's just not going to happen.
The hit rate is low
Unless
enough.
it's
That's
Max
fair.
Crosby.
Let's come back to the hit rate argument. Yes, I would agree because the hit rate is so low that it's like, what the hell's the point? Whereas
Take a
at
quarterback.
running back,
Take another
at running
quarterback.
back,
Take Spencer Rattler. Let Caleb have the
no, we don't need the Oklahoma. We don't need the
Spencer
Oklahoma
Rattler again. What? This is the first time I'm thinking of this. Would that not have been fucking awesome?
That would have been
if
fun.
we let Caleb,
it would have been stupid. It would have been stupid. It would have been
probably.
It would have been incredibly dumb.
That would have been kind of funny.
It would have been hilarious.
Let
I'm laughing
Caleb for the rest of his career.
Just own his ass.
Just.
This is for being a jackass on QB1. This is for all the shit you did in high school. All right, Rattler. We're just gonna make you relive Caleb owning your ass every single year.
I'm looking down this list right now, and Spencer Rattler's name, showed up a couple picks after. I was like, holy shit, that would have been so funny.
No, okay, so I agree with you, and this is actually the 4th round is a good, just so people understand, 4th round is a good place to pick up a running back or like a safety. Nickel corner you could potentially hit at. I think Kyrie Jackson, rest in peace, went here in like the 4th, right? That's a guy that I really liked. Yeah. Rest in peace. Obviously hurts knowing that he won't be able to play.
I meant to say that last episode. That fucking sucks, man.
That really sucks. I feel bad for him and his family. I feel bad for Vikings fans to not be able to watch him play because even if I hate the Vikings, I was excited for him. I liked him as a prospect. That really sucks.
I retweeted that video. He just seemed like such a good kid.
Yep.
Ugh, man.
Pulling back to less sad things, like there are other things you could have used that pick on. There are positions in which you can hit. You should look at the draft board and look at where you're at on the draft board and where you're at within the draft and make those decisions, smart decisions based off of your odds, right?
Yeah. I'm just going low value. I'm just going low value, or I'm going massive upside in 6-7, but like 3, 4, 5, I'm going lower value in my ideal world.
Yeah, and I'm fine with the tackle because we've seen tackles. I think the tackle hit rate is a little bit higher than what you're saying. You look at what Green Bay's done.
It's fine.
Yeah, you've looked at what Green Bay's done. You've looked at what the Bears have done multiple times, Leno, also on top of Braxton Jones. Like, I'm pretty sure it's actually a bit higher than what you're saying. And tackles is actually used as one of the examples against edges to be one of those positions that you go after instead, I think, in the draft stage book itself.
I guess it's just, tackle, it's specifically rounds 2 and 3 that there's not enough drop off to round 4, 5.
Yeah, you want to go later on them. I don't like it as much in 3 as much as I like it in 5.
I remember I had a very coherent argument for not taking a tackle in the 2nd round in 2022. And it was something more like that. The drop off is not so much that you shouldn't just wait until 4 or 5 to do it.
Right. That is correct. And I don't like tackles in the 2nd round at all. I don't know if I like offensive line.
That's probably what it is.
Offensive line in the 2nd round, because you have such a high chance of hitting at other premium positions that taking a tackle there makes no sense. You can wait. I think that's what you're talking about then. If that's what you think it is. Let's pull back. So that's our thoughts on Austin Booker. I hope he hits. I mean, he's got the traits, but we've seen this before, so let's just calm down. That's all.
Yeah. So that's the offseason. To be decided.
We haven't done shit since, huh? The draft?
No.
Really? There wasn't a single move since the draft? Any contracts? No extensions.
Wave Trenton Gill. Resign Mercedes Lewis. That's got to be its own episode.
Hey, you know what, though? I like that move. I'm fine with it. I love the fact that he's still playing, man. I just think it's fun. I think it's fun. And it's so cheap. Like, I don't care.
You know, this morning I told you got to get me the link
Is it
to
a
the
Mercedes
place you
Lewis
got
jersey?
the a
Yeah,
Mercedes Lewis jersey would be so fucking awesome to wear
that would
out.
be. That would be. That's
I love
awesome, man. Yeah,
Mercedes. 40-year-old fucking king still going at it. Come on, man.
that is. I love it. I'm so cool with them. I'm happy we made sure we talked about that because I love that move. I think it's. I remember when I saw it. I looked at it. So my cousin's husband, John and I were talking, and we're at a birthday party, and I get the notification. I'm like, we just re-signed Mercedes Lewis. He's like, are you serious? I show him. I'm like, it's such a cheap deal. This is awesome. It's a little bit of depth. He's a damn good blocking tight end.
I think there
And it's just
yeah,
cool to see the guy
I
keep
think
going.
there's genuine football value to it. Like
Yeah.
we didn't have a third tight end. I wanted to draft a tight end.
Oh, I did
You know,
too.
going back to the 5th round, I was like, let's take a flyer on one of these tight ends. Because we have the roster spot for one. We need one. We don't have like our other guys like Steven Carlson. It's like, yeah,
Yep.
Mercedes Lewis is great. I think we probably signed him when we signed him because we didn't draft a tight end. We thought maybe we would. So I'm happy with that. Great blocker, and when he catches a touchdown, I'm going to lose my shit. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
The
Brings
only thing
good value.
we signed DeAndre Carter for some kind of additional Velus Jones competition, and I'd be happier with DeAndre Carter making the roster than Dainty Penis. But that's it. Remains to be seen. I still hope they. Man, I'd really like Carl Lawson. I'd like just like one more little something.
So, I want to pull back. A lot of people talk about this as like a perfect offseason. And I think the reason they think of it as a perfect offseason is because of the Williams, like Caleb, obviously, and Rome, right?
The stuff that
Which
matters,
the stuff that
those are the
matters
two
worked
things
out
that truly
beautiful.
matters, and that
Yeah.
was perfect. Sure.
But I feel like as we've talked about this, like free agency was kind of meh, right? Like I didn't really like
Free
the moves
agency itself was absolutely meh. Yes.
yeah. And then when you look at the rest of the draft, it's also meh. So it's like, yeah, the two moves that matter absolutely were big. But there's no Andrew Billings, right? There's no like, oh, I see, or TJ Edwards, right?
Yeah, not a lot around the edges.
You're sitting there and you're saying, man, that's some good value, right? There just isn't much there that I see that I'm like, I almost want to say that this, if it wasn't for
Byard,
those, but the thing is, those
Byard,
two,
you can kind of
you can argue Byard, but
say is
Byard could
like
also
that,
be
but it's
it could be a
kind
drop
of in
off.
the
There could
direction.
also be a massive drop off there because of age and because of what he showed last year.
Right.
And so it's way more risk than like Edwards, right? Significant. Edwards was like, oh no, there's no risk to this at all, and we're getting him at a good, pretty damn good number because of what the linebacker market's at. So like if Swift somehow becomes the guy that everyone believes in, sure, we got one at 8 million instead of 12. Yeah. Like I don't know. So I see more.
Right.
I think it's more likely that that's a pain and that sucked, and we just wasted 8
Yeah.
million, right? So like the rebuild's complete, and I like what we have. That's the thing is like I look at it and I think that what we've seen off of the conversations we've had, there have been some decent value signings at free agency, but not a lot, which is fine. I would rather build my team through the draft, and I think what we've built through the draft has been very good. Would you not agree?
Yeah, it's not perfect, but the things
Coming
that
back to
matter,
that,
are basically home runs.
this is almost the opposite of Ryan Pace, in which we have hoarded our early picks instead of trading them away, and have done well with those early picks. But we haven't done all that well with the later picks. Whereas Pace, you can argue I don't think he actually did. If we really look
So
back
this
at
is the
it,
thing.
but
So
the narrative with Pace was he was hitting on his later picks. I'm holding up.
I don't know. We're
People know
we're see that on the site. He's been off his pills.
because this is my most recent set of medication. Right, I use these as like storage. Sorry, go on.
I gotta stop making those jokes. You're legitimately upset by them.
Well, I'm more worried about what people are actually going to think as they hear them. I know they think they're jokes, but come on, man, there are some fucking idiots out there.
Everyone knows they're jokes. I forgot what I was gonna say.
I cuss like a sailor.
What
We've
were
hit
we talking about?
we've we've
You
hit
know
with
what?
the important picks, and that's
Yeah.
important, and that's how you build a real team.
So I guess countering some of my criticism of some of Poles' moves, especially the first one, is that so you and I were talking a little bit privately about maybe we'll eventually do a GM ranking episode. And you brought up something about Poles, or I guess about GMs in general, that Poles doesn't really have like his thing that differentiates him.
Yep.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have him ranked right outside the top 10 probably. I have to go through it because
What I
while I
what I
think he's done a good job and he's been smart about what he doesn't have that like Howie Rose been, oh my god, I can structure a contract in such a way that I can move off of anybody and know what I'm doing and I could manipulate the cap to ensure that we're always competitive. I'm not manipulating the cap like an idiot, right? I'm doing it in a way that keeps us competitive year in year out, no matter how stupid or how bad of a move something ends up hurting me with.
so what I think the thing might end up being, if there does end up being a thing, is that he admits that anything besides a day one pick is a crapshoot. And again, I just argued against a lot of this, but I think there's maybe some merit to this. He admits anything that's not a day one pick is some crap is maybe a crapshoot. So he just uses those things on veterans that he might not otherwise have access to.
I would say day one, day two. No, because he's used a couple seconds. Yeah, and there might be
Two of them.
value there.
So the first
Yeah,
one was obviously a huge
yeah,
disaster that, to his
yeah.
credit, he moved off of pretty quickly. And hey, we all make mistakes. That's why they put erasers at the
But
end of
since then, it's been
pieces.
Montez Sweat and Keenan Allen,
But like
and
Montez Sweat, so
they've
that could be his thing. Like Montez Sweat, it's very nuanced. I think I said this a lot last thing, but like at the end of the day, we have Montez Sweat now, and we probably would not have him if we had not traded a second round pick for it.
yep.
And
It's like a
that's
lesser version. Let me
it.
pull you
It
back.
would it would
It's
it,
a
it would
lesser
take some
version
real
of
analysis. It would
it's a
take some
lesser
real
version of
analysis, but then getting Keenan Allen, having Montez Sweat, we have those players now, and we wouldn't have those if we had just drafted some guys who were statistically likely to bust. And I
yeah.
think that's maybe something that Poles has started to figure out, and maybe that's right. So I think
It's
that
a
could be his thing.
it's a lesser version of what Les Snead does with FM picks, though I will say that Les Snead does a very good job of drafting in later rounds to ensure that the Rams stay young, and aren't
Yeah,
getting super old as he
it's
does
almost
it. Now, I do
it's
think the
almost
Bears
it's
do a
almost
good job of
inverse,
hitting. Yeah, I do think the Bears do a good job of hitting on their early picks to ensure that they have that too. We still have
right?
a pretty good young setup.
It's some combination of we're probably not going to hit on these picks, and I don't like this class at this position, so
Yep.
let's screw it. Let's just get the
Yep.
guy, and yeah, it's going to cost us money. It's going to cost
Yep.
us money in terms of draft pick compensation and what we have to pay the guy, but like
Mm.
otherwise, we're not going to have Montez Sweat, so let's get him. And again,
Yeah,
I argue against that a little bit earlier in this episode, but like I do think there might be some merit to that. I think it would take some actual analysis to look at, but I think there might be something there.
might be. I would agree with you. I think just anecdotally, it sounds right. Got to do some more analysis to not have it be anecdotal. And why are you laughing?
I thought the first time you flubbed the word on accident, then you said it again.
Wait, what's anecdotal?
Anecdotal.
Did I really say that wrong?
Yeah.
You're right. It's anecdotal. I did. I totally flubbed it. Oops.
Hey, that's why we
I
put
think I've been flubbing it my whole life and nobody said it until you just said it.
erasers at the end of pencils.
Well, I can't erase that, my guy. I've been, you know what? Maybe it's just I'm off my meds today, okay? My ADHD is fucking everywhere. Just blame it on that.
He's all fucked up. He had a really
fucked up.
busy Saturday last weekend. He doesn't know. It's fine. He's going to stay inactive. Right. You're going to yell at me so much once we're done with this, which I think we are.
What I am going to do is I'm going to share with you some family shit that I had to deal with on Saturday because of it. Somebody else was off their meds, and it's not Adderall that they take. Yeah. Let's just go from there. I don't need to share all too much with the rest of the viewers. Maybe not family. I don't know. I shouldn't have said that part.
So wrapping up, I think you were probably flirting with giving this offseason a grade.
Yeah, so I was flirting with it. I think because of the moves that matter being so important, and he did hit on them. And here's the thing: those moves that matter are easy to hit, and I don't really like the rest of it. I'm gonna give it I'm still, because it's got Caleb and Rome, I still need to give it like a B plus, maybe a B. And to be fair, there is no at this time and at the time and now, because it is now is at the time. So we don't need to give 2 grades, and we didn't really last time. You good?
No.
Anyway,
I'm not harmed.
I still, just because those 2 moves are so important. What are you doing?
So I do think when I pour a beer is I rest it like this on the tab.
And it fell in.
For the first time I ever fucked up and fell in completely. My shit's beer.
I would probably have to give it to like a B plus, just because those 2 moves matter so much. And I think a lot of it is luck. And I think the reason why I wanted to do this retrospective is on the 3 years is because I feel like if you look at the totality of everything that's happened, luck has had to play a big part in it, right? And I like where this team is at. I think what Poles has done is he has leveraged his luck, right? He has found luck by doing things that allowed him to have it, by trading with the Panthers and the first overall pick, by giving himself that flexibility. Like, he's given himself flexibility to find luck. So a lot of it still needs to go in and be given as credit to Poles. But had that luck not hit, we'd be in a very different situation than we are right now.
Yeah. So I say I'm not going to give the 2024 offseason a grade, as much as I like to do that. I'm with you. The easy stuff he nailed, and it would have been weird if he had done anything else. And
his process has been good too, and his process has led to some lucky things to happen because his process has given him the flexibility to find that luck. That's kind of where I'm going at with this.
The totality is honestly, I think this was all kind of easy. I don't know. I think the rebuild is the easy part.
I can easily see people flub it. Look at the Giants. Look at the Vikings. You can flub it.
Could you have said? But if we,
some people decide not to do it this way. Some people decide not to give themselves the flexibility. Some people decide not to allow luck to actually creep in because they try to rebuild on the fly.
What was your other example? The Giants, not the Giants. What was your other example? The Vikings.
Who, to be fair, and we've talked about this, a lot of the players they currently have that are great are not due to Kwesi. They were there.
See, if JJ is good, it's going to work out though. Is kind of thing with the Vikings. They didn't go full.
What have they done in the past 3 years outside of the Hawkinson trade? What have they done that is easily a net benefit? What have they done outside the Hawkinson trade?
Like transactionally, you mean?
Yeah. Most of the stuff that they have that's good was there before Kwesi came in. We've had this conversation.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I liked their free agency for sure this offseason.
Yeah, sure.
But you're not wrong.
So that's what I'm saying is like, yeah, sure, you want to say it's easy,
but it wasn't a true rebuild.
Not giving himself that flexibility to get lucky and to see these things, right? You don't have the chance to.
Right.
And
so, but
you look at the Giants, you look at the Vikings, they never had the chance to.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. So the Vikings and the Giants, the difference is neither one of them actually did a rebuild.
Right. That's what that's what I'm trying to get at, though. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
He decided to give himself the easy. He chose the easy way, and you have to have ownership sign off. By the way.
Yeah, I know.
To do it.
Wait. Hold on, really quickly. John Mara, owner of the New York Giants.
I haven't seen episode 3.
He meddles,
I'm
man.
looking forward to it.
He meddles in a way that I really like. I know George McCaskey.
It's not
It's
any
bad.
more than just like is this guy high character? Is he a giant? Like he's really having opinions out there?
I mean, there's some strong opinions being given about Saquon Barkley and how much he's loved by the Giants and how upset he'll be if he's not a Giant. That's meddling. Granted, you don't have to fall for it, but that's meddling. Just that alone is meddling in a way that I'm like,
Yeah.
Talks about how high his blood pressure would be if certain things don't happen. And it's like, you're adding too much opinion, my guy.
That's true.
I'll let
I
you
would say,
walk
I just in general, I just think, I think the same thing about my beloved Cubs. Them winning the World Series in 2016.
Our beloved Cubs. I haven't been as good of a Cubs fan.
I think I like them as a lot more than you do. But
I haven't been as big of a Cubs fan. Blame Marquee. Just blame Marquee. I haven't had access to watch them. Go on.
I'd imagine I probably follow them a little more closely than you do, whether you have Marquee or not.
I was really fucking close before. Just continue. We don't have to have this argument right now.
So, and I'll say for the Blackhawks as well. All three of those teams earned their championships via rebuild, having very high picks in the draft. Well, those two teams, and hopefully this third team will. It was easy. It just was. It was lucky and it was easy.
You need the luck though to hit, because you can have the Detroit Lions who rebuild.
So
they finally get it set up right, and they hit a little bit with some luck.
So I think what an interesting question would be, and maybe not on this episode because it seems like we're at like 3 hours or so.
Yeah.
Would be, what if we did not get lucky and did not get Caleb Williams, and we were stuck with the 7th and 9th pick of this draft? Would we be looking at JJ McCarthy and Roma Dunze?
I think we'd be looking at
and would we be
still? I don't think you move
probably
off Justin Fields for
and
the other
would
guys.
we be happy about that? No, not really.
That's why I say there is a bit of luck that plays into it. There is luck,
sure,
but you have to give yourself the flexibility to be lucky. You have to, and that's where the rebuild part comes into it. Is if you don't take the chance to get lucky in the future, right, and wait and be patient, you're not going to get lucky. You have less chances of getting lucky in the future.
I think back to the Cubs, and the Cubs assured themselves they would suck, and they would have the 2nd pick in the draft, and they would be taking Chris Bryant, and then they would have the 4th round pick in the draft, and they'd be taking Kyle Schwarber.
Right, and we did that the first year, 2022. We assured we would suck. We got the 1st round pick. We opted to put it off till the future, right, and allow ourselves to get lucky in the future by letting the Panthers hopefully suck, and then us potentially suck. And we potentially did suck, not as much as we did. And the Panthers did suck a lot. So much so that we got the 1st pick. Had we had the 2nd pick, I'd hope we'd be taking Drake May if Caleb Williams is already off the board. And we would be in hopefully a similar situation. But what I'm saying is you have to have that foresight. You have to sit there and say, and I do think some of that does go back to polls, but a lot of it does go back to luck. And yeah, I don't know how to feel. I think he's a good GM. I think he's the best GM I've seen in my lifetime for the Bears. I think he's better than Angelo significantly. I think he's better than Emery by quite a bit. And I think he shits on pace so far. So,
yeah, it's him or it's him or Angelo, because what I'm getting to is the hard part, in my opinion, starts now. I don't think anything that he did correctly is something that I also could not envision myself doing as just some guy.
I already know.
I don't think anything
he would have done, and I'm curious as to how they would have worked out. But sorry, go on.
Right. So there's things I would have done, and maybe they wouldn't have worked. But the things he did correctly are also basically things I would have done.
Yeah.
So
maybe
going forward is where it truly becomes a thing. Like this is where pace fucked up. Like this is like before we got to this point. Yeah, Pace had done the silly Trubisky thing, but like He hadn't
Yeah, I
actually
think
fucked up yet.
no, and you're right. And he had played. If you look at Pace's first few years, his process was significantly different than it is now. Than it was. Sorry, is now. What I meant was after the fact. After 2018, his process flipped. It was after the Trubisky deal,
That's
the
what
trade up for Trubisky.
that's
Yeah,
what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting at.
maintaining a
It's
team
kind
and
of
a roster.
easy. It's kind of easy to rebuild when you're willing to suck. We're no longer willing to suck, and now, but the rebuild because we got Caleb Williams. Luck aided, but it's an A. But going forward is how I'm going to judge Poles as GM, because like we're super harsh on, or you're super harsh on Brandon Bean. I'm a little harsh. You're super harsh on Mickey
I give him
Loomis.
I give him a lot of credit, being a lot of credit for what he did this year, because he did something that Mickey Loomis, the second guy you mentioned, was not willing to do, which is
Right,
take a
but
quick reset
these
to
are
allow
guys
yourself to have flexibility. But yes,
who have
these are guys who
again
could rebuild.
started as heroes and lived long enough to become the villain. And Howie Roseman, on the other hand, aced every test he's been given, besides
Right,
some bad picks that are
right. But
silly.
he's been able. So it comes back to what you're saying. It's easy to build. It's hard to maintain. Can you
Yeah.
maintain a roster for long enough? Because you can
Assuming we've
you
even
can get
built,
the
it
core.
seems
Yeah,
like we have.
yeah, you can get the quarterback Drew Brees right. But you can also make the quarterback Drew Brees go 8-8 multiple times in during the prime of his career, right? And that's not good enough. It's not good enough to have a Hall of Fame level quarterback go 8-8, Mickey Loomis, or you could have Josh Allen, right? You can see that the roster is aging, and you can sit there and say, "Well, let's take a step back to refresh, and hopefully, in 2 or 3 years again, we're still going to be competitive this year. We're still going to go 10 and whatever, probably. And in a couple of years, we will be Super Bowl competitive again from like a roster standpoint. They can always be Super Bowl competitive because they've got Josh Allen, just like Drew Brees can always be Super Bowl competitive. But we're not going to let the roster ever get to the point where it's almost impossible to get there.
Yeah.
Or again, Howie Roseman. I can have Carson Wentz. I can have Nick Foles. I can have Jalen Hurts, and this roster is always going to be stacked because I understand that when I miss, I move off of it and I quickly try to fix it.
Chiefs completely retooling everything that they're about on the
Everything.
fly,
Yep.
less need, seeing
It
the
is.
window and taking
Yep.
advantage of it in a way that like basically no other GMs ever tried to.
Right.
I like
Right.
that's what's going to make polls stick out from everything else. Like he's done the easy part in my opinion. I'm not gonna back off me saying I think this part was pretty easy. There were some mistakes in there that I would not have made. There were some mistakes that I might have made that luckily Pulse did not. But
I will.
this next part is the part.
Yes, I'll phrase it like this. This is the easier part. I wouldn't call it the easy part, right? Because you still like somehow getting Rome and Caleb at the same time. That is very luck aided, but it also requires some moves that you need to do to set yourself up for
It
that.
requires,
That's
to
what
your
I'm going.
credit, hiring the correct assistant GM to tell you not to trade up for Rome.
Yeah, yeah.
For example.
There's a lot to it. I think that I do think that Poles has been a above average GM throughout all of this, significantly above average GM throughout all of this. Not at the top level, but
I can't say significantly. I can't admit. I can't with the Claypool trade. I can't with the botching of the compensation
fine.
picks in the
Above
first year. I
average,
can't say
maybe not.
significantly. I'd say
Fine.
above
Above
average.
average, but not significantly. But yes, you're right. This is the hard part. This is where things get trickier. This is where you need to actually prove yourself to be different in some kind of level, because if you're not, it is very easy to allow this roster to deteriorate going forward.
And he's
However,
also got maybe one more year of easy because he's got a lot of cap space and he's got a lot of good picks coming up. It's certainly
you got
2
the extra
years from
second.
now is the hard part.
Yeah, he's got that
And
extra second.
also don't fuck up next year either. But yeah.
But we'll see. I'm excited. I think this is a year that we can absolutely fight for the wild card.
For sure.
The
Hey,
division's going to be a pain in the ass, but we can absolutely fight for a wild card, and that is exciting. That is
college football 25 is taking up my time now, but in the Madden sim, we're in the NFC Championship game. We're visiting Dallas. Let's go, baby.
Let's go. So yeah, I don't know.
We're in
Closing
it.
thoughts?
We're in it.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts? I think we're good.
Besides talking about my Madden simulation,
Yeah, what
I
the
can't
hell is that
imagine
from?
anything more relevant.
Stop. That's it. Anyway, I think that's good. Excited for this year to start. Excited to see what the team can actually bring. I'm really hoping for injury luck. Really hoping there isn't a lot of that is the big thing, man. Because I don't know how much depth we really truly have. But this is Adam. This has been Adam. That's Kev. And we are Virginia's DMs.
Bye.